Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. In this week's show, we're going to recap who's number one, Gordon Ryan versus Vagner Rocha. We are going to recap Fight to Win 168, the third all-women's event. We are going to recap SUG 21, Mason Fowler versus Boogie Richie Martinez. And we are going to preview Third Coast Grappling, the heavyweight GP, and EUG Promotions, the featherweight tournament. As always, in the show, I'm your host, Maine, with my co-host,
Zach.
How you doing, Zach?
Good.
After the hour plus of tech issue we have, here we are.
Yeah, it was a struggle.
But we're here.
It's over.
So we have a banger show today. I'm super excited. I got a lot of great stuff to talk about. It's going to run a little long because there are a huge host of really fun matches to talk about.
So much to talk about.
Overall, it was a really fun, good week of jiu-jitsu.
Oh man, it's a great week. I'm really happy I'm on the show this week because it's a really exciting weekend to talk about. Lots of great matches.
I worked like 60 hours, so I'm going to be drinking energy drink at, 6 o'clock start time on a Monday afternoon. We record the show.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It's here, and then we had
here.
tech issues, and then here we are. So let's kick it off with a little bit of news before we get into the recaps, because I'm super excited to talk about the recaps. So let's come through the news.
We got bamboozled.
We did, okay, bamboozled first. So Craig Jones versus Gabi Garcia. We didn't talk about it last week because I didn't know it was real last week, and I was like, okay, let's not talk about it. And then it was real, and then it wasn't real.
It wasn't real.
So I think
old bait and switch.
Literally bait and switch. There was like a press conference before the match, and then it was like, yeah, we're not gonna do the match. We're gonna,
We did get a really nice arm wrestling match out of it, though.
I didn't watch it on principle.
It makes sense, though. I mean, as disappointed as I am that it went off that way, I am A, not surprised because it's Craig Jones, and B, why would they? A lot of people want to see that happen. No. Why would they do it for free?
And if
like,
you're gonna
make some fucking money off of it.
Make some money. If you're gonna get paid for the match, like, I'm upset that it didn't happen. I'm upset that like it was scheduled to happen,
right,
and then we didn't see it. But if grapplers can get paid to grapple, and it's like a big enough event, you can generate money, and both can walk away with a good chunk of change. Like, I'll deal with my disappointment for that.
Yeah.
Because I want to see Craig get paid. I want to see Gabby get paid. Like, and if they're gonna do the match, like, I'll tune in to watch the match. Like, I know how it's going to go, but I want to see it.
I also really like that this week also Craig Jones accepted a match against one of the Ruotolo brothers. I can't remember which one.
Tye
Ruotolo. Tye Ruotolo. So,
also in news.
Yeah, also in news, I guess. But it made for excellent memes this week about Craig Jones fighting women and children.
I forgot. I saw a bunch of those because Craig was posting them.
Yeah, and then he wore that fucking bandana, and then all the memes were like, hide your kids, hide your wife.
Craig Jones was especially on point this week.
Oh my God, he was incredible.
And I appreciated it.
Yeah.
Appreciated it.
It was incredible.
It was great. What else we got in news? Oh yeah, so moving on to like regular news. William Tackett got his black belt finally. He's been
deserved.
Yeah, he's been competing to black belt against black belts for
2 years?
couple of years now.
Least.
He was a weighed in 80cc 2019 alternate.
Yeah.
Like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
so like that speaks to he's top of the food chain. He's great. Happy to see him get black belt. Now again, he kind of competes mostly in no-gi.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't really matter in no-gi because no-gi is like, we don't care, which I really appreciate. But now he's available to, compete against the black belts and you can't duck him anymore. So love to see that. That's awesome. Congratulations to him. We cover him on the show almost every other week now. So
yeah, it's good to see him get it.
Finally, like a lot of the guys we covered in brown in the last year are now black. Makes it way easier for me to remember like what belt they are. Like Pedro Marino got it last week. William Tackett gets it this week. Cody Steele got it like last year. There's a bunch of guys that are now into black. So now his BJ Heroes page can remove that caveat about him being a brown belt still, which is always great because I think him, Crownston, and might have been Paige Marino. Somebody else had a BJ Heroes page as a brown belt, but they've only done it a couple of times ever, and now he's finally a black belt.
Yeah.
So I don't think I have any other.
I think that's about it.
No other news. Let's kick it off.
Yeah.
Let's move into the recap of who's number one, Gordon Ryan versus Vagner Rocha. Gordon Ryan calls his shot, puts it in an envelope. Okay, I legit kind of like the theatrics of this as much as I should be a guy that fucking hates that. I enjoyed, like, he didn't post on Instagram like he did last time for the armbar.
Yeah.
He put it in an envelope.
Yeah.
With an index card with a triangle written on it and signed it and was like, open this after the match. And I went, I said on Reddit, I was like, it's a time. Like, he has a time listed, like in the Hallett Gracie in 2019 Metamoris match.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to submit him at this time. Like, this is what we're going to do. I thought it was the time because he was kind of like cooking Vagner, and he talked about cooking Vagner like in the lead up in the press conference, and we didn't know if he was going to do it or not, if he was going to be able to do it. And then he has triangle written on there, and he triangles Vagner Rocha.
Yep. Yeah. I too enjoy the theatrics, and at this point, I'm just happy that Gordon Ryan is doing something to keep some of his matches interesting. This was actually a really good match, and Vagner held up against Gordon Ryan better than maybe we've seen anyone in the past 2 years.
I think so.
I think that this was an extremely good match. Vagner was... I don't think Vagner was in it as in, like, I thought Vagner could come through with the win, but he wasn't so far out of it that I didn't think that he had a chance here and there. Like, he was doing things right.
Gordon work.
He made him work for it more than anyone else has in 2 years. It was an incredible match.
And the thing I liked about this match particularly is you saw Gordon go from, like, in previous matches we've seen Gordon, like, not fuck around, but, like, showcase his skills and the fluidity of his passing and his movement.
Yep.
You saw him genuinely have to, a couple of times in this match, like, defend a little bit, and you saw him have to, like, switch up how he was passing and how he was moving and where he was positioning. Like, genuinely have to fight Vagner Rocha, and, like, this grew... Again, Wagner's one of my favorite guys. It's Rachel's favorite guy to watch. This genuinely brought my stock of Vagner up because it's like, man, Wagner's making Gordon do all of this extra
30,
shit.
At 14 years older, too, like, which is something... Or maybe not 14...
I think
13?
Wagner's 39 or 38. Gordon Ryan is 25. I always get
25 or 26. So it's within the range of like 13 to 12 to 13 years older than him, something along those lines.
And Gordon was only 15 pounds bigger. I think Wagner was 201 pounds.
Yeah.
Gordon was 216.
But Wagner also generally cuts to 85 just fine.
Well, he cut to 70 for a long time. He's finally in the last, I think...
This year, he's been cutting to 85.
Like, so, not even 18 months. Last year, he's moved up to 85, and then he beat Yuri at 85, who we'll talk about Yuri versus Nikki Rodriguez in the next match.
But so, like, he technically on the books was only giving up 15 pounds, but...
Gordon is a much bigger guy.
Gordon's a bigger guy. And so, I was extremely impressed with this fight, and... of course, Gordon did multiple things that I'm going to have to talk about here that were just technically astounding, but I think it's really important to point out that, like, Wagner lost the match. I don't think there was no point in the match where I was like, oh, Wagner's going to win this, but at the same time, there was no point in the match where I thought, like, oh, Wagner has absolutely zero chance, which is usually what happens about 30 seconds into a Gordon Ryan match. I just think, like, this dude doesn't stand a fucking chance at all.
That was the thing that was really interesting to me and I've been thinking the past couple of days of watching this and rewatching this to think about how to talk about it on the show, and like what I was seeing technically that was different about what Wagner was doing that made me feel like and visually see that he's still in this as opposed to he's only defending. Like,
well, I think what he was doing was he was playing jiu-jitsu the way that Wagner typically plays jiu-jitsu, which despite him being a very aggressive person, what he is physically doing is always very safe. He's very compact. He's very close to himself. He never lets his limbs get away from his body. Yes. He's technically very sound and solid. And even when he had his back taken for God knows how long, everything that he was doing was very safe and sound. He was very compact, and he was defending. Like, he's always in a position where you're not looking at him and thinking like, oh, there's this obvious avenue to pass here. Oh, there's this obvious avenue to...
He's fighting the sub. Yeah.
It's not just that he's defending. It's that he's just... The way that he moves about, the way that he moves about everything, he's always kind of shutting down an offense. And I think that was the big difference here, was that a lot of people go into a match with Gordon Ryan and are like, well, the only way that I'm going to win this, or they think they're going to win it by getting him, by catching him off guard, or like by surprise or something like that. And so even people that we see that typically play maybe a style game like Wagner does, where they're safe and controlled and want to play the controlling game, they come out against Gordon Ryan and just like throw their limbs out as far away from their body as they possibly can and let Gordon grab whatever the hell he wants, And I think that that's sort of a natural progression. You have someone that's such a name and so good, and you know what they're going to be able to do, and you know how they play the game. Like, you try to mix it up, right? Wagner didn't do that. Wagner played Wagner jiu-jitsu, and I think that's why it looked like
But I also really loved to watch Wagner's jiu-jitsu, because, like, when's the last time, and again, I could be wrong, but I cannot remember the last time we saw, not like an overtime, but in like an open regulation of a match, we saw someone on Wagner's back like Gordon.
Yeah, that didn't happen. Well, they actually, one of the commentators said it, and I'm glad I didn't have to look it up. Wagner hasn't been swept in 2 years.
Yeah.
So, like, right? Wagner's had an incredible run for the past like 10 years, but
Wagner's been like competing a bunch too.
Yeah, he's been
not
a
guy that
Yep.
we don't see compete a whole. I mean, there was a period, I think in 2018, may have been late 2017, 2018, where Josh and I called him like Mr. Competition, because there was like a couple of months where we were either recapping a Vagner Rocha match or previewing a Vagner Rocha match every single week, at every single show for like a couple of months. It was like every single week he would not go more than a week or 2 weeks without a match. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's bonkers. And to not get swept in all that time, it's incredible. But another thing, the really important thing to point out here, before we go into how incredible Gordon's jiu-jitsu was during this match, also, Vagner escaped, like legitimately escaped a position that Gordon didn't want him to get out of. And I know that seems like a small mountain, but at the same time, like, that's huge. I don't think, have we seen anyone escape a position where it wasn't clear that, like, I think we've seen people transition out of positions, but I felt like a lot of times it looked like Gordon was kind of letting it happen to progress the match and take the next thing.
We've seen guys escape before, but I don't think
not recently. I mean, recently, like last 2 years.
The Niz got out of the mount position, and Manez got it.
That's true.
Guys will get out and escape from stuff, but I know the point you're trying to make here, which is like we saw Vagner actively not, like, Gordon was not happy to have to reset to what he was doing. Versus in previous matches, it was like, okay, Gordon's back to the Toriano pass.
Yeah,
like,
it felt
Gordon
different.
Was kind of nonplussed about having to reset the position. You saw him actively sort of try to scramble with Vagner here to keep the position. In previous times, we just haven't seen him do that. And you saw him, like, the way in which Gordon reset and stopped the scramble was like, okay, I don't want you to get any more here. Like, I want to retake this position that I was in, as opposed to before, he'll let you come out because he's confident he can pass.
He's going to move into the next thing and just continue the game.
And so that's
whereas like this time he was like holding the body lock really tight and trying to make sure that he didn't get away. That was one of the things I really liked about like what we got to see open up in Gordon's game here was, oh, he has to fight Vagner here. Like, he knows that if he gives Vagner too much space, like, Vagner has the skills to get onto the offensive, and that is not something you want Vagner to do, because Vagner can begin to take a match away from anyone, because that is what he does. He takes little inches on you through the match, and he changes the flow of that match to put it into his favor, to put it in the game that he wants to play, and his style of jiu-jitsu makes it very, very hard to take that back from him. And so you saw Gordon start to see that match slip a little bit and went, I am not going to let this happen. I think that's true.
And then we saw the heel hook from Vagner. And Vagner threw up the heel hook, and you saw Gordon like decide, I actually really don't want to play the leg game with you here, because
actually that leads into what you're talking about right off the sweep early on. Yeah, that's actually one of the things that I really wanted to talk about. This just nicely segues. There's two very technical things that Gordon did here that I thought were incredible. I mean, more, but that I really wanted to talk about. Yeah, we're going to hammer home here. And so, like, the first thing that he does in the match and also the last thing that he does in the match were technically unbelievable. And so this sweep that he gets, the first time Vagner, according to the announcers at least, the first time Vagner's been swept in 2 years, which I can't think of others, but maybe it happened. I might know better. I can't think of something directly or obvious.
I can't think of anything. There's stuff when, like, he has come up or taken the bottom position. Like, there has been times he has ended up on the bottom, but I can't think in my head of a, like, oh, that was a sweep. Like, that was not him electing to be here. That was like, he got swept. Yeah, like, I can't think of anything. And I think it was Howell and Chase, and like, Howell Teague knows.
Yeah, he's pretty good about that kind of stuff.
He knows that kind of shit, because a lot of times they prepare ahead of, like, they're really good commentators.
Yeah, they are.
Like, they know their shit. Yeah. They're not ever talking about things that are like, that's bullshit. Like, occasionally, like, they will get facts wrong.
But it's not that wrong.
And it's usually not that frequent. Like, it's very rare that they'll say something like, I don't think that's right, and look it up, like, that's kind of like a weird way to look at that. It's very rare. Usually they're on point with their stuff. So if they said it, very inclined to believe it.
So Gordon starts the match by pulling guard, and within the first minute, he sets up this straight ankle lock, single leg X type position. And this is a position that I think we're starting to see a little bit more of. And I've seen it more in gi than in no gi, but it's bleeding into no gi a little bit. And Gordon used it here, where it looks like a X guard, but instead of having the leg over your shoulder, it's a sort of straight ankle lock kind of position.
Yeah,
like you've
it's
got
something
the
that you
leg
see
locked up.
women play X guard from a lot. There's a strength differential. It's one of the main positions I always kind of point to that is different in men's jiu-jitsu and women's jiu-jitsu is the style of X guard. You typically will see women play X guard from an underhook grip there, and then men will typically play it from on top of the shoulder. And I was talking to maybe Aaron Hurl.
Aaron Hurl likes the straight ankle position.
I asked her about that, and I was like, "Oh yeah." She goes, "Well, we're not strong. Like I can't hold that as easily there for the pushing up versus here. I'm much more controlled. I can control you easier with my body as opposed to just having you like with my arm."
That makes sense to me.
And it was a really interesting, like, oh, that's because it's something I've seen for years.
Yeah,
and that was really a really.
I've never noticed the sex dynamic on that, but yeah, it's a thing that I've started to see more in men's jiu-jitsu now. But so he has this position, and he starts with like a straight ankle X guard, and then intentionally transitions to a straight ankle single leg X, and Vagner tries to not let him do it. He's kind of like holding Gordon's foot, and Gordon kicks it out, and it was like the first tension that we really saw in the match,
where it's like, oh, Wagner's legit like stopping.
Yeah, he knows what's happening here and doesn't want it to
just
happen.
like, I'm gonna fuck you up. Like, no, you're gonna have to work for this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really not gonna play this with you.
But nonetheless, he does get his foot free, and then he ends up in this single leg X position, and then in order to defend it, Vagner sort of steps forward, and Gordon gets what, for lack of a better, I hate saying this because it's what we call it, the dummy sweep.
Double ankle sweep.
Oh, double ankle.
Is the nicer way to put it. Yeah,
so I've always called it a dummy sweep, but it feels really weird calling it a dummy sweep when it's happening to Wagner. That's not legitimate.
It's the name of the sweep. It's
right,
like,
I know, but it feels weird.
Both ankles caught and they pushed you over.
So we'll call it a double ankle because it's Wagner.
It's honestly like we're starting to see that sweep used more and more at the high level. Like it is a much more common sweep because
you're getting into it in weird technical positions like this. It's not just people putting their feet close together.
You can't sweep guys unless like you see guys set it up. And like because the only way you can control both legs is with that sweep. Yeah. So you see it actually more and more frequently. It's a dummy sweep, but it's like it's the only thing that works at the high levels. Yeah. And it's really hard to get there, but it's
sometimes
one of the few
you can
things
get
that works.
So he hits the double ankle sweep by it's sort of uniquely because he has the single leg X position.
You had a big ass hair on the side of your head that I've been looking at for like 10. No, it's like a human hair. It's like a Rachel hair. And I've been looking at it for like 10 minutes. It's been bugging the shit out of me. So continue.
Thanks,
sorry,
sweetheart.
Keep going, Zach. May mess up the flow of the show.
Yeah, he has this single leg X position. His heel's on Wagner's outside hip with where single leg X heel is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And he's able to use that bit of momentum to like finish the double ankle sweep, which is a really cool way to finish double ankle sweep. You know, he has one leg behind Wagner that's like sort of there to block Wagner's leg from getting out, even if he's able to escape for that one foot that grabbed the far ankle.
Yeah.
Right. If he's able to get that out, he's got a backup leg, and he's able to just kind of use his heel on the hip from the single leg X to sit him back. But the really impressive part about this was not necessarily the sweep or the setup. Like that was all impressive, but the finish and how he was able to make sure that Wagner stays down was incredible to me.
The settling of the position here.
Because Wagner immediately, he goes down, but Wagner's smart and good at jiu-jitsu and knows what's happening. And on his way down, like once I think he's sort of conceded that he's going to get swept here, he starts immediately looking for that single leg X leg and starts working into a heel hook. And actually, I don't know if it was a real threat, but it was threatening enough that Gordon couldn't continue doing what he was doing and had to address it.
And that's what I thought was interesting, because a lot of times guys were going to, and like we talked about this, I forget, it might have been Emil who picked up on this, or me or Emil, I forget who it was, but about a year ago we picked up, maybe right before ADCC, Gordon does not get into leg lock battles with leg lockers.
Usually not, no.
He doesn't do it. No. Like the only guy, ADCC, he heel hooked Pedro Mourinho, which is like the last instance of him like getting into a leg lock battle with a leg locker. But Wagner is a very competent, well-rounded leg locker. And you can watch that in the Dante Leon match from Grappling Industries from a couple of years ago, like how he addresses the leg locks. He's very, very, in like the Kino match, the best 50-50 match of all time, which is Wagner versus Tankino. Very good leg locker. And Gordon knows this because Gordon's game planning is impeccable. And they know that, you don't want to be in a place that's more mirrored. Wagner also has really, really good 50-50 game and like 50-50 like Kimora game. Like he's very good in those I have something, you have something positions, and they're not, it's not a place that you want to engage him in.
No.
And Gordon goes, I don't want to keep going down this path because if I'm going to lose, it's by Wagner heel hooking me.
Sure.
And so I went, he did an assessment, and his fight IQ was really good, and went, I don't want to do this. Okay, I'm going to have to play a little defensively, get out of this before I go to the next thing. I'm going to stop what I'm doing here, which is that standard stand up, open up the legs from the X guard and just pass you over. We've seen him do that a bunch of times when guys try to heel hook him. He just steps on it, stands up, and then just turns, and he kind of will flop past you almost.
But what was impressive about this for me was that the position that he was in was that Gordon was in was sort of off balance too, right? So like his back leg was tucked under Vagner's butt a little bit. Like he couldn't just stand. I don't think that he had the option to just stand up and pass.
His legs were too wide.
His leg that was behind Vagner for the sweep was still behind Vagner on the fall.
Yeah.
Right? And so he has to address this heel hook that's coming on, and he reaches forward to address the heel hook. But in doing that, he lets go of the foot that he had the straight ankle lock on. And the way that you need to finish that sweep typically is to maintain that leg and make sure that they can't get that foot on the ground, because if they can get that foot on the ground, they're going to stand in base. And so he reaches forward, addresses the heel hook, and then scoots his hips forward just enough that Vagner's foot is sort of shelved on his thigh. And so he's managing the distance just well enough that Vagner can't get his foot out in order to set it on the mat while Ryan is reaching forward to grab the hands. And he intentionally, after Vagner gives up on the heel hook, you can see Gordon Ryan intentionally scoot his hip forward a little bit to make sure that foot can't get on the ground. And then as soon as he's comfortable enough to move his own foot out from Wagner's reach, Vagner also has the space to start scooting his hips out, and Vagner tries to scoot his hips out to get that foot on the mat, and Gordon Ryan reaches down and catches it with his hands and then stands up with it. Yeah. And so like he used his hip to make sure that Vagner couldn't get his foot on the mat to stand up for just enough time to use his hands to get rid of the heel hook, and then bring his hands back to the foot just in time for, like, it was just, the timing on it was incredible, and the way that he was able to like move back and forth between these two things that were both threats, and managed to like not let either one come through. Like, people can't do that. Like that's the situation that you lose the sweep on 99% of the time. 99% of jiu-jitsu players, even top end guys, are gonna lose the sweep in that scenario. And he was able to do this like nonsense, this crazy shit, just to manage the position.
And that stuff like that, to me, that kind of speaks to his game the most. Is okay, first of all, that you this is kind of like a macro, not a micro thing, is you have the technical ability to do that stuff, you have the physical ability to actually make it work, and you have the actual timing. You right there, Zach?
Yeah, it's good.
You can tighten that if it's falling down low.
It's this.
Oh yeah, that's fucked up. You can tighten that if you want to make it do that. Okay. He has all those things in combination, so that he can execute like in those little middle spaces. He is already ahead of you. He knows what to do. He knows where he needs to be. He knows what you're going to do, and he knows how to stop what you're going to do. And he has the physical ability to do it, which is that last piece that's like super rare. Like, a lot of guys can teach or show you, or like, versus when there's not skill parity, they can do stuff. But when there is a skill parity there, he has the ability to still, keep the distances managed. His distance management is astonishing. Yeah. And this was, I think, one of the best examples of that. I want to talk about the half guard pass.
Half guard pass or the finish?
Where he goes to mount for the first time.
Oh yeah, talk about it.
There's a Reddit post that somebody made that was breaking it down, and I was like, oh yeah, we should talk about that too. Just the way that Vagner, there's an instance where you see Vagner essentially blocking Gordon from getting the far side underhook from like the quarter guard. And he keeps his elbow really, really tight in to prevent the underhook from happening. Gordon Ryan takes a cross-face overhook to function the same way as the underhook here, and he gets his hips out. Yep. He's eventually able to like step over to mount. The step over to mount, we've seen this a bunch of times in Gordon's game. Like, his leg movement is crazy. Like, Gordon can open his legs and put his legs into positions. For some reason, that's always been the thing that stands out to me most at black belt, is how dexterous guys are with their legs, and when they can pull them out and stop them in free space on someone's hip or hand or wherever you need to. He's very, very good about that. Yeah. And you can see in that transition, he hops, instead of going over to the side control, he hops directly into mount with that heavy, heavy crossface to prevent Vagner from like getting up on him, because Vagner doesn't want to flatten out. And it's this very, very neat little adjustment to when somebody's going to block you from the underhook. He's like, cool, you're not going to flatten out on me, so I'm just going to cross-face you here and turn you, because you need to come into this direction to avoid the pass that I'm setting up. And so I'm going to do it to you, and then when you're done, I'll push your leg away and just pass him out. Yeah. It was just ludicrous.
Yeah. I don't really have much to add. That's exactly what happened.
What other technique do we want to talk about?
Right. So the last thing that I have to talk about is the finish of the match.
Yeah.
So if there's nothing else in the middle there,
there's
then I'll go over.
First of all,
there's tons of shit from both of them. Vagner was incredible too. This is a match. It's not something that I would talk about like this very particular thing happened, but just in general, watching Vagner deal with Gordon Ryan having a body triangle and eventually escape from it is worth watching over and over and over again because Wagner's ability to get out of there was.
Technically, he does a bunch of technique stuff and
it's
not
slow.
Like I just beat you with the shoulders. Like that's how most guys decide to, especially guys that do a lot of EBI.
Yep.
They decide to eventually, I'm just going to beat you in the roll. And Vagner doesn't do that.
He doesn't bother with it. He stays calm and tight and controlled like Vagner does.
Yeah.
And eventually comes up with a plan to sort of stand and base out, tries it once, almost gets it, realizes where he made the mistake, tries it again, actually gets it. Like it's really impressive and like an incredible athletic feat too, because the dude basically stood and based safely with Gordon Ryan maintaining a body triangle on him. Like, I don't have the mental strength to do that, much less the physical, I think. One
time in the match that Gordon got a little flashy,
he
had that body, he had the rear waist cinch on Vagner, and he did the split drop on the legs and on the heels, and Vagner gets dropped over with it, and immediately kind of gets out, and it was like, ooh, Gordon got a little flashy there, and Vagner was going to keep him honest on that, and gets up.
And then he's out entirely.
And that was the only point in the match that Gordon got a little flashy, and it was like, oh, cool, that's you don't see that split drop step.
No.
I don't have a better way to describe it. It's got a judo name for it, but like he essentially switches his hips, and instead of basically going same side foot with the rear waist cinch and throwing you down, he splits his legs so his hips are turned sideways to you, and then drags you down over the opposite feet, essentially. It's really hard to describe. Watch it in the match, you'll see it, but it's the one instance where Gordon gets a little like flashy and Vagner immediately goes.
I don't know if it's flashy, but he creates more distance than he does in the rest of the match. Like he allows for more distance by doing that than he does with anything else.
It was a thing that I saw, I think, to more so like prove a point proving thing.
Yeah.
And that where where Gordon will wilt a lot of guys that are not as like do not have the mental fortitude that Vagner will have with something like that. That's just like, oh, he did the flashy version of the takedown on me. And then, okay, they kind of turned like versus Vagner, like, cool, you did the flashy version, like, awesome, I'm going to use the extra space you made here to get up.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
So let's talk about the finish.
So the finish. Gordon starts with doing something that I think 5 years ago we would tell white belts not to do ever, where he's in, right?
There's so much of that.
There's so much of that now.
That's why I love jiu-jitsu, because
so much.
Like, I think in the last 5 years, there's been so much pushback of like, what's the wrong way to do it versus like, does it work? All right, do it that way then.
I think it was always that way, but like depending on who you were with. But what I would normally have always said was, don't do this thing. I wouldn't suggest doing this thing, but if it works for you, fine. See if you can make it work. Is like typically the approach that I
encourage it.
And now I would say, yeah, there's a lot of shit you can do from there instead of saying I probably wouldn't do it myself. Right. And so Gordon Ryan is in half guard, and it's sort of this like it's almost a deep half, except Vagner doesn't have his arm underneath the leg very well. Right. Like he's just sort of extended in this deep half, and Gordon is pressing his ribs sort of back into Wagner's chest area.
Really, really good pressure control.
Yeah, it's high pressure control, but he's not really worried about the leg that's in half guard.
Right.
And
it's kind of an afterthought, like annoyance, but like he also knows where Wagner's hips are because he's controlling the leg.
Yep. And Vagner reaches his arm around to the outside of Gordon's torso. And this allows Gordon to grab a Kimora on the far arm. So like a far arm away from where his leg is. His right leg is in Gordon's right leg is in the half guard, and he attacks his right side of Vagner. So Wagner's left arm in this case.
Yeah,
it's kind of a confusing perspective, but he's essentially extended across Vagner, going for a Kimora, which historically we would just be like, that's dumb. You're never going to finish that. Like you don't have the torque to finish that. You're in half guard. Worry about getting out of half guard first. But that's not what you should say, apparently. And so what Gordon does, so he gets the Kimora control, and I don't think he's really going for that initially. He's not going for the key lock.
Like the positioning that he has isn't like he doesn't have the torque, and Wagner's not going to just tap to like a meh Kimora.
Yeah. But what he does do instead of like going for this Kimora is he uses it a little bit of control, and then he allows that control, or using that control, he scoots his bottom leg, the leg that's not in the half guard, up above Wagner's shoulder. So he clears his own leg around Wagner's shoulder, and so he's sort of sitting on his foot, his knees collapsed entirely, and then that knee, you can, in like one screen clip, you can sort of see the knee poking out from underneath Wagner's head. So Wagner's head's like resting on Gordon's thigh. And then once he has that, he's got enough pressure because he can pull Wagner into his own thigh. Right. And so Wagner can't reset up. And so he uses that, sits his butt down. And when he sits his butt down, because Wagner can't move towards Gordon Ryan's hips anymore, he's sort of blocking him by blocking his shoulder. Gordon's able to pull his leg out of the half guard.
Right.
While still maintaining the Kimora control. Then, because he's got his leg out now and his bottom leg is still around Wagner's neck, he's able to cinch up what is essentially a triangle. It's a triangle position, but he still has the Kimora.
It's an outside arm triangle. It's an outside arm triangle.
Yeah.
So instead of the arm being traditionally across the body, he has it in a Kimora. And it's sort of, in my eyes, a lot of times he's finished like a crank. So it's really hard to tell, like, you can either finish the neck crank here, you can finish the Kimora here, or you can finish the triangle here. Given how quickly Wagner taps, I'm kind of guessing it was shoulder.
I think it was some sort of torque on the arm.
Yeah, and that's it was
because and so what happens too is Wagner sort of tries to roll out of it and ends up on his back, but Gordon is able to keep the triangle locked in and then rolls over top, and he finishes with a triangle, but it's his like thigh is on the back of Wagner's back, and he still has that Kimora control, which I think is actually what ends up finishing him. So I think it was a shoulder lock or
but from the triangle position. Which honestly I will give you. Like, okay, you can let go of the control you have and try to finish a triangle, but you have a locked up triangle versus you have a Kimora. I don't really care because you had the control you needed, and you called it. Some called it something different, but you're in the position to finish the thing. Like, it's kind of a semantic argument. I'll give you a triangle.
It wasn't so the big technical thing here, which I go back and watch because once you kind of know what's happening, it's easier to see. The big technical thing here was using that Kimora control to set his thigh, so set Wagner's head on his thigh, and then that gives him the half guard escape. And then puts him right in the triangle.
The half guard escape for me was the most interesting thing there. Yeah. And then how he immediately transitions from that. But also, that's something Gordon's historically very, very good at, is that triangle. Is then using the feet in free space to put his legs exactly where he needs to put them. Like, overall, just an outstandingly incredible performance from both guys.
Oh, man, was it ever.
The most we've seen Gordon tested since his Nogi Worlds run, probably versus Kynan. The João Gabriel Rocha match was a test, but in like a different way that I thought was a lot less interesting. And then his other match he had with Yuri at Nogi Worlds was interesting, and the Max Jimenez match was interesting. But like, this tested Gordon in a way that made him, like, you got to see him, you had to see him open up.
It looked like he was trying.
Yes. And it's the first time he looked like he's been trying in a little bit here.
Yeah.
So super, super excited. I want to see Vagner fight William Tackett because that's a match that William Tackett wants. And we've already talked about who want Gordon to fight. And he'll probably be Penna. He talked about Gavao probably, not being, and he didn't even do it like disparagingly after. Yeah. He was like, Gavao's probably not like in that match. He's just, it's probably something he's not interested in anymore.
Yeah.
And he's sort of, Gordon is sort of actively talking about who he is going to face at ADCC.
Well, and he also signed with WNO.
No, he signed with One FC for grappling and MMA. So it's possible he's going to make his transition over to MMA there. He's talked about it and not talked about it. That sort of bounces back and forth. Donahur's talked about him not going into MMA, and so it wouldn't really surprise me if he hops over to MMA, especially if he gets bored. Because Gordon strikes me like a guy that if he is not being challenged, and we saw that after the Jimenez match. He's like, I'm still doing shit from 2 years ago. Like, no one's, or from 2018. He goes, no one's even making me have to do any of the new shit that we're showing and we're learning and we're like implementing. And I think he's getting a little bored.
Yeah, it kind of seems like it.
And so,
I mean, it makes sense. He's fought the best in the world and beat all of them, and it's not like he's got any big rivals laying around. And
everyone that's willing to fight him.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. It's like, okay, you fought everyone willing to fight you. There is no. I looked through his record. Just because I knew we were going to talk about it. I looked through his record this week, and I looked at like all of his fights, and like everyone from 85 to super heavy to ultra heavy, he's faced.
Yeah.
There's one guy left on the list is Penna. Gavao's retired. It's the pennant. Like, that's the only rematch we want to see. And other than that, he's beaten everyone else. He's beaten Duarte.
Definitively.
He's beaten Duarte. He's beaten Yuri like 4 times. He's beaten Tex Johnson.
Yeah.
He's
and
beaten,
eventually some of these guys will. I mean, especially I can think of Duarte. Kynan is one that comes to my mind where, like, okay, maybe some of these guys have gotten better enough that it makes a rematch more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm super interested in that rematch because I think Kynan has gotten much better. Gordon has also gotten much better. It's dynamic, like the dynamics of both of those guys.
It'll be a different match, but I would still prefer to wait a while on that to give Kynan a little bit more time to continue developing before seeing that rematch. Because, you know, at a certain point, you see the rematches so many times, except that you see the rematches so many times that you're no longer interested in them, even if people have developed a lot.
Especially if the
and I
outcome's
don't want
the
that
same.
to happen. You know, if Gordon wins a second time again, or another time,
I think
a third time. I think it would be a third time.
They
against
didn't meet
Kynan.
ADCC. They met at I think they met at Worlds for Nogi.
Yeah, they
or
did.
Pans. I always forget.
Yeah, either way, if Gordon wins too many of these rematches, then even if someone does get better enough to beat him in 2 years, we're not going to care. We're not going to see the match. So. Yeah.
So that's awesome. Like watch that match. You haven't seen it. We don't talk about a match usually for 30 minutes. It was
an incredible match.
It was an incredible match for all of the reasons.
Great performance from both guys. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Next match, do you want to talk about Nicky Rodriguez versus Yuri Simoes?
Yes, I do.
Yo, Nicky Rod got better in 8 months off or 6 months off, whatever it was.
Nicky Rod.
Nicky Rod. Okay, so during this match, I kept thinking of the Happy Madison, Happy learned how to putt or something like that. Whereas Nicky Rod with the bottle, I was like, Nicky Rod learned how to pass because that's the area that we've historically critiqued Nicky Rodriguez in the most, is that his high level guard passing versus like the upper level elite guys in Nogi was problematic. He had a problem getting past the guard. He could only explode past the guard, and that was kind of his only avenue to get past. And he could do that, and he was good at that, but he was getting kind of tripped up a little bit by the high-level guys. Yuri, 2-time ADCC champion, 3-time medalist, as high level as you get.
And Yuri's known for his wrestling, but he's also not a slouch on his back. Like, he's an incredible jiu-jitsu player on his back as well. People talk about his wrestling a lot, but he has finished many high-level guys from his back and played the game very well. So it's not like, oh, he was against another wrestler, so of course he was able to pass. Like, no, you don't pass Yuri's guard, right? And
Rodriguez
Nicky
got the body
what I
lock
will say.
Sorry.
What I will say is that I think that there's still room for improvement, because on those passes, his ability to transition to a useful position following the pass was lacking.
Yes, I think that's the next piece that I was gonna be critical again. So Nick Rodriguez wins this via decision.
Yeah, sorry. That's important to mention.
It's sort of implied to how we're talking about it. But for me, 2 things were here. It was really cool to see Rodriguez in 6 months all of a sudden like, oh, you can pass the best guys in the world. That's a crazy level of improvement. And then B, okay, now you can do that. I'm very curious to see, because Nick Rodriguez has historically been a cartwheel pass over your back guy, and
I mean, you say historically, but the dude's been around for 2 years, so
3 now at this point, 3 years, but
2.5.
But I'm saying, like, historically, like, in what we've seen from him, like that was his pathway to victory, was either out wrestle you if you're dumb enough to try to out wrestle a guy that moves like a 170 or at 235, or like snap down back, and like that was his game. He versus some lower level guys, he has some leg lock wins, and he has some like Kimora wins. He has some other stuff in there, and he's learning to do other stuff. But to have him now be able to reliably, I'm just saying reliably because Yuri is an astonishing competitor, to reliably pass high-level guys' guards, I would love to see him have more topside control and topside submissions now, because, he can pass you, he can point you, but how dangerous really is he, in those positions? And right now, I think in watching this match, not super dangerous, but if all of a sudden in 6 months you can go from, hey, passing is a problem, to like, oh, cool, you can body lock pass now. I'm very curious in 6 more months, like, oh, now you can get there all the time, and now in training you're working something from the top. I'm very curious to see what that progression has been, because Rodriguez is a guy that has consistently impressed me with the new skills and tools that he is implementing in his game.
Yeah, he's going to continue to be dangerous and get more and more dangerous. One thing that I did want to say about his passing, I mean, his passing was incredible. I jumped straight to the critique, but I probably should have spent more time saying that like the passing itself was really good.
It was really good, and like it showed like, oh, this is really good body lock passing. I'm also personally, I'm not a good body lock passer, and so I don't have a ton to really add to the discussion about his body lock passing. Well, so not a really strong passer like that.
I think it's less technical in terms of like what he was doing for the body lock pass, and more of just a meta idea. And so something that I've been saying since probably 2018 is that the meta in both gi and no gi shifted so strongly to these sort of wide open guards, standing passing, which that happened probably in like 2015-16, right? We started seeing a lot of the standing guards and standing passes become very prevalent.
I think that's a
and then in
timeline.
Response to that, especially in no gi, we saw the emergence of like heavy leg lock games, which is a nice counter to these sort of standing passes.
Yeah.
And so then the meta shifted clearly by 2019, but probably started to shift pretty strongly in 2017, 2018 to leg lock dominant in no-gi, right?
And I think 2017 was the hallmark year for like passing isn't a thing. Like, there was the amount of passing we saw in 2017 was nothing. It just wasn't like it was. Oh, cool, we're going to both sit and leg lock until, we either get stood up or until the match is over. And then now we're starting to get out of the dark ages there and move into...
Well, one of the things that I think is a natural progression for this that I've been thinking is going to happen for a while now, and I think that this is what we're going to see, is that those standing passing and standing guard passes and those wide open guards are going to stop happening so much, because the best way to deal with someone that likes to come down and get deep underneath you to set up leg entanglements is to control their hips and pass at the hips.
Yeah.
Right. And so low passing, so in gi, or I think that we'll see a reemergence of over under. I mean, everyone knows how to deal with over under passes, but that style of passing, we'll see the reemergence of that over-under type passing or knee pinch passing and body lock passing, these types of passes where my shoulders are very low, I'm controlling the hips and I'm controlling the legs by controlling the hips. You can't invert on someone if they're
If I have your hips or I'm body locked around your waist or even around like the tops of your thighs, which is like
if we
see a really high knee pinch or like a leg or like a thigh pinch pass, you can't invert off that. Or if you can, you end up giving back, which you can still kind of get out of, but you're really trying to free your knees at that point, so it doesn't really become a viable way versus the high level guys, because at low levels, you catch triangles on that spin through, but the high level guys are just going to roll with you and keep crawling up you if you expose the back like that. So I think the shift over,
a natural progression of how the strength of the meta goes, I think, and I think we're starting to see it a little bit. And then this was the first match where I went, oh, it's fucking here.
Yeah,
like watching Nicky Rod's style of passing, DDS has always pushed the meta. Mm-hmm. They're if I'm looking to see where the meta is going to go, I'm probably looking to their team. Yeah, because they're the ones pushing the meta. Mm-hmm. And then we sort of look at Atos and a couple other big camps to see how they're dealing with it and what they're doing based on how the meta starts to seem to be shifting. And seeing Nikki passing this way is my flag that we're going to see a big meta shift away from loose open guards and back towards heavy pressure hip control passing, which will eventually fade again because these things are sort of cyclical. But I think that we're going to see a bit of a meta shift in passing, and I hope it happens because that's the only way I know how to pass.
Well, I would also I like watching passing. The longer we do this show, the more I get super into passing, because the leg locks are cool. I like the leg locks. Like, the submission game is a lot of fun. I really like the guys that can progress and continue to control, and not just like wait and control, but like actively get in better, in crude terms, like get to the top and start fucking you up. Yeah, like I like seeing that, because there's something that's very visual. You can see that it's very easy to explain. It's very easy to understand. Like, that guy got past him, is on top of him. He doesn't want to be on the bottom, and he's gonna try to bottom bad. Good. Top good. Top. And then it just, I think it's like the way that jiu-jitsu is sort of like historically in kind of quotes there, is like the way it's kind of supposed to happen is you pass and then you get to top and then you dominate from top. You either finish from the top or you finish from the back, and that's the game. Yeah. His passing's phenomenal. It looked really good. I'm very impressed to see that, and I'm very curious to see who he's going to get next. Yeah. Yuri just didn't have a ton of offense. Nicky
it's hard when you're getting fucking smothered with that body lock like that. I mean, like I said, Nicky wasn't doing it's Yuri that you're again. So that's take this with a grain of salt. But he wasn't doing a very good job maintaining side control. He was just doing a very good job getting to it.
Yeah.
For the 3 seconds that you would need points if it was a point scored match.
But I think what was interesting to me about that is like Nick Rodriguez is a guy that like will look to finish you.
Yeah.
But is a guy that's looking to win and looking to beat you.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you listen to how he talked about and how his coaches talked about, like J. Labudo and Danaher talk about winning in those rule sets, Nick goes in and he's very, very disciplined with his game plan.
Yeah.
And a lot of time his game plan isn't like, I'm just going to see where it's never that. It's always, I'm going to go do this thing.
Yep.
And then when push comes to shove, I'm going to continue to do this thing. He talks about it on his podcast a couple months ago, and he used to run that still. Yeah. He talked about kind of his mentality and his, like, he's very, very good at sticking and keeping to a game plan, even when it gets rough.
Yeah.
And then, like, not having the wherewithal to not shift from that. And that's a kind of a special thing at the high level. The guys can like, well, I'm just going to keep running through this. He can win a lot of matches with that because he's going to hit you with something that eventually make it work. And so, incredible body lock passing from Nicky Rod.
Excited to see how that progresses.
I'm
excited to see.
Goes with it?
I mean, honestly, given his team, my guess is that he's going to start making it so that he's transitioning from body lock passes into back takes more smoothly. I don't think that he's going to be the kind that tries to maintain side control that much. I think that he's going to be more focused on getting the back because it's also a little more natural from the body lock to sort of set up back takes. Going to be an arm drag back guy.
He's going to be a guy that'll control your head super heavy, turn you, and then step to your back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's kind of what I think, either a far side or a close side.
I imagine that, but also looking at how Gordon Ryan's been passing and moving to mount, I could see that happening too, right? There are scenarios where you can use the body lock after the passing that he's done. There are mechanisms to move to mount from there as well. So, I mean, or it's both, right? Jiu-jitsu's dynamic. He doesn't have to have one position that he's choosing to go to. So,
I think that's a lot of what we saw from Nicky Rod is like very, very measured improvements in game. Like he's improving everything, but he's actively looking to improve single areas, and that's sort of what the DDS guys talk about. If I can improve this one area, you've put 10 years in jiu-jitsu in all these places, I've put a year and a half into this thing. Mm-hmm. I've put more time into this thing than you have, even though you've been training for 10 years. Like, I'm gonna win that. And that's very much, I think, why Nicky Rod is so successful in the camp that he's in now.
That's why all the DDS guys are that successful, because that's the way that you should be training. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be training the way that we train, but that's a different story.
Very different story.
An argument I've had.
When we have a slower week, we'll probably get into that. I think you have some interesting thoughts about training. So, what match do you want to talk about next? I kind of want to talk about Musamachi versus Cohen.
Yeah, sounds good.
Mikey Musamachi. There were no points in this match. Mm-hmm. Mikey Musamachi versus Marcelo.
Probably scored 1,000.
Finishes it via triangle armbar. I think he scores about 70 points in the match. I started to count it about halfway through. I did the math on it.
That's a little unfair because Cohen doesn't have to care about those points.
No, he doesn't.
But yeah, if we were scoring points,
as a flavor for the match and like an understanding of like how it works.
Yeah,
he goes to half guard to knee on belly to mount.
Well, quarter guard. He's going back. He's going back and forth from quarter guard to mount to quarter guard to mount to quarter guard to mount. Knee on belly in there a bunch.
He just continued.
It was strange though. Like I'm not sure. The commentators were talking about it like, oh, Mikey's going. He's letting Cohen get quarter guard back because they were saying that he's looking for some sort of response that he's not seeing. And I don't know if that's what it was. I think in my eyes, it seemed like
I immediately thought that's what was happening. Because
which might be true because in the end, his finish on this was very calculated. Mm-hmm. And so maybe that's correct. Maybe that's what happened. But to me, it kind of just looked like he was wearing him down.
It looked like both to me. Like this is a match that I thought like Mikey got, like he felt out the match very quickly, figured out, okay, I'm going to come up on top. I'm going to do this passing sequence over and over again. I'm going to wear you down because I have 15 minutes to work. I got plenty of time to work. Once I've figured out, okay, I'm comfortable in Nogi, like I know what your threats are. And Cohen's a guy we have a lot of tape on. He has really interesting Kimora from Combat Jiu-Jitsu last week, if you got a chance to see that, versus Taylor Nuasa. You know where Cohen's really dangerous. And so if Mikey can figure that out and like put him in a place where he's not dangerous anymore, then Mikey gets the time in Nogi versus, a guy that is specifically dangerous in certain places. But if you put him on his back and you start controlling from the top, you can kind of neutralize him. He did that. He got the rounds in and he got the time in, but he also was like specifically trying to slow Cohen down because Cohen is a very, very good scrambler.
He came out aggressive,
Yeah, and that's what Cohen does. Like Cohen will blast you off your feet really quickly with, with launching into stuff because he's a smaller rooster weight. Like that is the game that he finds success with in those scrambles, because that's what a lot of guys find success with. Slows him down, and then he changes the speed of the match through kind of passing, because Cohen's a guy that can play the points. He's a guy that does do IBJJF, that does do other stuff. He knows, like, when you're getting passed over and over and over, and it's not like Cohen wasn't trying to retain the half guard. He was
trying.
Actively trying to get back to a guard. Like, he was actively trying to work from the bottom, and Musamachi had him just controlled enough to let him open up to try to readjust, and then he would pass again. And again. And again. And I think there's 7 or 8 different... I started counting at 6.
I stopped counting at 5.
There were 8 or 9 before the finishing sequence happened. And it's like you're getting knee on belly almost every other one. So you're getting 3 points for every pass. So that's 21 points. Then you're getting 2 times 4. You're getting 8. So you're up 30 points. Then you're getting to mount every time. So you're getting 28 points. So you're up like 60 or 70 points at that point. And Cohen on the bottom is going, all right, this sucks. Like I gotta open up. I gotta really try to make something happen.
Yeah.
He gives Mikey the reaction that he wants, because that's what Mikey's looking for.
So I wasn't sure that he gave Mikey the reaction that he wants. I think Mikey, that's why I'm saying that I'm not sure that he was waiting for a reaction, because Mikey's in the same position that he was in unless there's some small detail that I'm missing, which is completely possible. I'm not doing it, and I'm also not, I don't know how many people in the world are as technical as Mikey is, so like there's a clear possibility that I'm way off on this.
Probably like 2.
Like maybe,
Gordon,
maybe.
And then like... Yeah.
Anyways.
No. Yeah, point taken.
Gordon. So like, right, so maybe there was some small thing that I didn't see that Mikey was waiting for that he felt, and that's what sent him into the progression. But the way that it looked to me was that Mikey made this progression happen. And so here's what I saw happening for Mikey's finishing sequence. He is in that quarter guard position, and he does one of the many quarter guard passes that he's been able to do a couple times in the match at this point, and he ends up landing in mount. But he does it, like his quarter guard, the way that he's playing quarter guard is the cross body. So he's got one arm over, his sort of bicep is resting on Cohen's neck, and his arms behind Cohen's head, his shoulders cross-facing, pressing Cohen's face away.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he's got an underhook on that same side, and he's clasped up underneath Cohen's shoulder. So he's crossbody.
Really heavy pressure game crossbody.
Yeah, it's a thing that we see a lot. Gordon does it all the time. It's a position that we see a lot, and it's extremely effective, especially in nogi. And so he's in this crossbody position, and then he transitions in one of any number of the ways that he was able to throughout this time into mount, and he's still got that underhook. And when he takes that underhook and he starts rising Cohen's elbow, that the arm that he has underhooked, he brings that up so high that Cohen has his elbow way above his head. He's basically completely extended on his outside. Yep. And Mikey's got mount. And then once Mikey has that position, he releases the arm that's maintaining Cohen's elbow that high. And he transitions over towards the inside. He takes that hand and transitions the inside of Cohen's arm there.
Yep.
And that allows Cohen to drop that elbow. Something that Cohen has been wanting to do the entire time, because everyone knows you shouldn't have your elbow above your head in that position. You shouldn't be extended out. So he drops that elbow, and as soon as he drops that elbow, Mikey swings his knee over Cohen's shoulder and then moves into the topside mount. And so to me, it didn't look like Mikey was waiting for some response during these passing sequences. It looked like Mikey decided, now's the time I'm going to make this happen. He got into mount, and then he set things up. And it's rare, we talk about jiu-jitsu being this I'm going to set a trap for you thing so much, and you just don't actually see it that often, right?
Yeah.
It's this like mythical thing that we talk about, and that was like been a legend forever. Like, oh, the black belts, they'll make you think that you're doing the right thing, and then they'll tap you right away. And like people just don't really do that, especially against other high level guys. And that's what we saw here.
Not a thing you see. It's like a thing you can talk about in concept, and occasionally you'll see like Keenan the triangle versus Felipe Andrew. It's like Felipe Andrew walking into a thing, and like versus Hulk. Felipe Andrew, like there's a thing that he does where he puts you in a position that's like, oh, and he kind of sneaky gets you.
Yeah.
This was very much like, I'm going to pry the arm up, you're going to pull it down to where it should go, and I'm going to chuck and roll over.
In my eyes, Cohen got tricked here, and Mikey did it on purpose. It just looked very, very well thought out. The timing on Mikey's end for raising his knee up into the triangle was so perfect. It could not have been a thoughtless thing. Like, he had to be waiting for that response after doing that to make that happen.
One of the things I really liked about this is he sets the triangle up, but he finishes with the arm.
Yeah, he
and
does.
because of how they roll through, he sees that the arm is in the position. He never has to fully cut the angle for the triangle.
Yep.
And so he's like, I can get the arm first. Like, this is something that I personally used a ton in jiu-jitsu, like when I was still competing. And I just love the transition because it's like, oh yeah, because it's there. And a lot of times you can get it in transition before, because you typically can't like finish and set the triangle as they're coming up like Cohen was. You have to wait until you stack back down, then you can cut for the triangle. But as they stack, that arm becomes available. So if you're ready for it, you can be just throwing the arm over for setting up the triangle, but finish with the arm. So it was a really cool, like, it was a finish I'm very familiar with. So it was nice to see Mikey set it up in that way and then finish it like, oh, I'm not going to go for the triangle here because I can finish you with the arm in transition. And then the triangle is going to be there if I don't get this.
Yeah.
So
I think there's no question at this point that Mikey's somehow a only gi person, and I'm excited to see what the hell the man can do in no gi.
I got 2 matches I want to see him in. I want to see him versus Junior Ocasio.
Yeah, that would be a good match.
He's a dope-ass leg locker. He's great. If he, depending on how the Junie match goes, I want to see him versus Kennedy. Kennedy's a bigger guy, but has a dope no-gi game. He's, again, 145, so he's a one-weight class above Mikey. But he's got a style.
I mean, Mikey was competing at heavyweight, so
he was competing at heavyweight.
I think that'll be okay with one weight class.
So that's a matchup, like, because Kennedy is a guy that will definitely press his size on other guys that are on the smaller side. So I'm very interested dynamically. Also, Kennedy is in the weight class for under 66 for ADCC.
Yeah, I wonder if Mikey's thinking about that.
Well, he got invited last year.
He got invited in 2019, but I wonder if he's thinking about doing it
injured.
this.
I assume he's thinking about that's. I think they've kind of talked about this is why Mikey is getting back into no-gi. He wants to train more lead up ADCC because he got invited in 2019. He got injured. He pulled out. He got replaced with Keith Krikorian. Is the guy that took Mikey's spot. I think it was Keith that took Mikey's spot. Could have been someone else. So like, those are the 2 matches I want to see. Very interested to see him versus Ocasio because Ocasio was a really good.
Just an exciting match. I think that's a really exciting match.
Yeah, and because they're both dope leg lockers.
Junie's been looking real good lately too.
And Junie is very, very tricky.
Yeah,
like he is a guy that has a very unorthodox style, especially with how he enters the legs, and he can finish you. And Mikey's also a finisher. The dynamics, and they're the same size. They're both bantamweights.
Yeah.
And then Kennedy. I want to see like how that, because they're same ADCC weight. And Kennedy cuts a pretty decent amount of weight to make that for ADCC for 66. So
yeah, that'd be exciting.
Super exciting. What do you want to talk about next? There's a couple matches I want to talk about. What do you start with?
Grandati
Geddes.
Yeah.
Zach, what's up?
Yeah.
No, not the name guy.
Not the name guy.
Grandati versus Rafael Geddes.
I knew that one too. I just wasn't. It just didn't. My mouth didn't make the words.
Well, they have her middle name listed, and it threw me off too. That's why I threw it to you first. Rafael Geddes, again, we talked about this match being a pretty tough match for Grandati. That's kind of how it looked. I was really impressed with Grandati's defense here. Like, she hung in there. She got tired, you could tell. Like, but she was. Of course, you get tired. Even no matter how good your conditioning is, she was defending a lot. There was one moment that really stood out to me, and there was a rear naked choke that Geddes had locked in over the face,
and she got out of it.
And I was like, that's it. And then I watched Grandati. There's a cool thing. They had a camera that was perfectly on Grandati,
right on her face,
and you could see her make the choice. It was like, I should tap here. I'm gonna fight out of this one. I was like, oh shit! And you got to see. It's very rare you get to see, because a lot of times, even the high level guys like UFC and like in jiu-jitsu, you'll see them quit.
Yep.
And then you got to see Maggie Grandati
not quit.
Yeah. She was just like, you know what? I'm not going to tap this. I'm going to fight out. She reaches back. She gets the hand. And she gets out. I was like,
it's incredible.
Damn, she's tough. Like I was very, very impressed with just Grandati's grit here, because Grandati's been having a rough go. And she even talked about it on Instagram. Like, she's like, losing sucks. Losing over and over sucks. I think she's on a 4 or 5 or 6 fight
for super fights.
Streak for super fights. And that's really
they threw her to the wolves. She's a new black belt, and she killed it at blue, purple, brown, and
double gold and everything.
But in a quick period of time too, right?
She's
a year each one.
Maybe I think she was a year and a half at
Brown. Maybe
no, she would have been a year at everything.
So she's like, she's been doing jiu-jitsu for a very short period of time. She's an incredible athlete, but still a short period of time, and then you throw her against the people that these super fights have been against, and like, it makes sense. I think she deserved to get those fights, but also at the same time,
I would love to see a little more lead up. But I do love seeing that in this match, like, defended
she
for
did not give up
huge periods of time, and like, oh, you're still in this. You're still willing to fight. You're not going to give up. Like, that's cool to see. Cool. And so I would love to see her against a matchup that was like, it's going to give her a chance to open up a little more and not necessarily be on the defensive, because Geddes is, again, been on a tear and has been so hard to beat. I mean, I think she was the top woman of 2020 for a reason. Again, I came away really impressed with Grindadi's grit here and like her defensive acumen. Like, she continued to make Geddes work and work.
Man, Geddes did look incredible. Yeah. And also, I really appreciate that she was doing some face smothering at the end there. That's the kind of jiu-jitsu that I like to see.
Yeah. Like being mean. But again, that's the whole match was kind of like that too. It was like, and she was mean throughout the entire match, and Grindadi like kept trucking, kept going. And like, it really, I think it raised the stock for both. Like, Geddes, can sustain that level of pressure and like style of jiu-jitsu when someone can take it. Because we've seen Geddes a lot of times, not really, I don't use the word break someone, but like she will definitely put a pace and a pressure on someone that they can't deal with, and she'll wilt them and she'll take a position she wants. Grindadi didn't do that, and Geddes had to kind of go to the well herself here was on the back a couple times, was on the arm, was on the, was mount, like all over, and then Grindadi was just still in it, and then finally is able to get to the back, get the rear naked choke, and able to get it. And but after a considerable amount of time, this was like 11 or 12 minutes in or something like that. Long into the match.
It was long into the match. And something to point out here for like people that are thinking about the technical aspect of this, I say it a lot. Having the hands on your neck is not a complete defense to the rear naked. Right?
Putting the hand in the middle of it?
Yeah. Yeah, you could just finish through that. Like, people do, and it's a thing that happens, but in the gym, so this is one of those things that, I'm not like a jiu-jitsu's watered down old asshole kind of guy, but jiu-jitsu is watered down quite a bit for people that are hobbyists, including myself at this point. Yeah. But one of the things to remember with it being watered down for hobbyists is that we let things go, right? Like, I'm not going to smash your face, even though I can sometimes, because you got to go to work tomorrow, and I'm going to try to be a little bit nicer than I would otherwise. Finishing RNCs with the hand in is something people don't like to do because it can really fucking crush your hand
and your neck
and your neck. Face. It hurts. It's terrible. It's awful.
You've had them finish through the face, right? When you're training with guys,
I've had them finish through the face, and I often finish them through the face because I want to make sure occasionally that people know. You can't. You actually. It's a valid defense, but it's not. It doesn't stand alone. You have to like do that and also be watching other arms, which Maggie was doing. Your daddy was doing throughout the match, and I'm not saying that she thought that the hand in was going to save her.
No, but it does.
I think she knew that alone doesn't.
But it does save you a lot of time, and there's a whole highlight reel of Gary Tonin finishing guys with the hand, which is why he got the name Lion Killer, because you'd put the hand in the arm. This like, I think it might be Yoshida. He finishes. Has the hand up high, and if you can't see the video because you're not watching this in the audio, I have my what is this place? Palm on the bottom of my chin, and my whole forearm is in my neck. And there's a picture of him finishing someone through that, where the whole arm's in there, and he still gets the finish. That's how Gary Tonin got the Lion Killer name, was because he'd finish you with the Mata Leon through whatever you had in the way. But you got to squeeze. It's hard to do.
Yeah, it's hard.
And that's why, again, I was impressed with Geddes, and like Grindadi, like, it sucks to be in. And so for Grindadi to also fight out of that as much as she did, and then for Geddes to just choose to like, it's
time to be over.
I'm gonna get you with this.
It's over now. Yeah. It was a very good match all around. I still believe that Grindadi is gonna make an impact in high level women's jiu-jitsu. She's had a tough go of it. Geddes is incredible and is probably going to be at the top any day now, like the top any day now. And will probably stay there for a while because she just looks fantastic.
I want to see her versus I'm blanking on the name. I'll come to it later, but like,
she's a weight class lower than DeJesus, right?
One or two. It's a women's heavyweight match, but women's heavyweight for who's number one is different. I think it's. I'm blanking on this because they call it a women's heavyweight match, but I know that like it's not 190. Yeah, like that's which historically women's heavyweight. Okay,
that might be why I'm getting confused.
Yeah, I think these are 175. Yeah.
She's going to be interesting to watch in the future, though.
Great match again.
Great match.
Super technical throughout, and like grit from both people. That's kind of what I took away from the match. Like, both are super gritty, and it's cool to have a women's match that's like typically a lot more flexible and like that to be like a gritty fucking match.
They were fighting.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like it was a very, very fun match.
Yeah.
Next match we got is Oliver Taza versus Johnny Tama. A lot of just leg lock. Really, it's if you've seen Oliver Taza, it's really an Oliver Taza match. Like he is actively throwing up.
Honestly, I thought Johnny Tama looked fucking good in this match.
Yeah.
Like I was
as
more
the smaller guy, especially too.
Yeah, and so like I think it was actually might have been on Danaher's Instagram, and I saw it before I watched the match. But Tama played an incredible jiu-jitsu game where he was doing classic jiu-jitsu and was extremely good at managing position. He got a couple very nice sweeps. He managed side control for a long time on more than one occasion. But he wasn't throwing the type of weak submissions that gain you points in this type of rule set.
Aggression is what wins you the match. I mean, they talk about in the rules, when they flashed before, like aggression, subs, and positional control or win you kind of in that order.
But I think if you play this game, like the guys that we see the judges favor when they play this like position heavy, position oriented game. So like Wagner's wins in under this rule set look like this, where like it's focused on position, but then, you know, I'll throw like a half-assed estima in once in a while, or like I'll like grab your arm and pretend I'm gonna yank it a little bit,
or
and
grab
like,
your neck, or grab a weak guillotine.
Yeah, I'll do these like half-assed submissions that are well controlled. It's probably not going to happen, but the judges are able to say, I think the judges in the end are able to justify, okay, well, there were submission attempts.
He's going
and also
for something.
Dominated position the whole time.
Yes.
But in this case, Tama dominated position the whole time, I think, and I really think that he set the pace of the match. But he didn't have any of those submission attempts.
Right, and they were all coming from Taza. Like that's where we see Taza shine. Is like, he's gonna, like, Taza historically is a guy that's going to lose on position. Yeah. Like when we see Taza lose, it's typically by like a positional controlling grappler. When we see Taza win, it is very much in this style. He has that knee bar from underneath that he'll roll through, and he has the outside and the inside heel hook. Like that is really where we see Taza shine. And if you're going to fight Oliver Taza, like that's what you have to shut down. And Tama, he shut down a lot of it, but there were still definitely instances where you saw Tama getting to his A game and getting to the heel hooks and getting to the knee bar.
And Taza he had one very legitimate heel hook attempt at the beginning that was in tight. And that
when they were dry.
Yeah, when they were dry. That could have been reason enough to give him the match. Because that was the closest thing that we saw to a submission.
That was where I was impressed with Tama's composure.
Yeah,
I went like, man, Tama is, because he didn't look nervous.
No,
but he was defending it. Yeah, but he didn't look like, oh shit, I gotta get out. It was like, oh, I'm gonna get out of this. But I'm gonna do that. Like very, very composed. But that was really deep.
It was deep. And so Taza had that first one, and then he had maybe one more heel hook. He had like an outside heel hook that sort of looked like a legitimate threat, but it didn't take too long for Tama to defend. Yeah. And then everything else that he threw were those sort of just like half control, half submission attempt things, but those stack up, you know, even if I'm not, even if I'm looking at it and saying like, you're bullshitting me here, I'm still giving you a little bit of credit. I'm giving you partial credit for it.
Tama in this match had really good control, but never, like at no point put up any offense. And so in this kind of rule set, and that's, one thing I actually do kind of appreciate about where jiu-jitsu is moving is that, you can control someone, but if you're not threatening them to beat them, like you're not going to win there. And so Taza also had some good control pieces here as well. Like, I don't want to take away just like he got positionally dominated.
No. It was a good match.
Good control as well. But Taza was putting up and the big heel hook at the beginning and the second heel hook and then the entry to the knee bar that kind of turned into the heel hook.
Yeah.
Like those were the pieces where it's like, oh, Taza, like in my head, I was like, this would be a very clear decision for Taza. And Tama was a little bit kind of like frustrated.
Which is that makes sense to me, right? I understand.
Given the rule sets that Taza fights in, or Tama fights in,
I'm sure
typically.
It felt like he won the match because this is a very rule-based who wins, right?
Yeah, grappling in general, submission grappling in general, is very, very rule-specific. Because there are plenty of promotions that have completely different win criteria for it's like, well, sometimes they favor wrestling super hard, or they favor top control, they favor initiative.
Even the same rule set with different judges are gonna positioning is considered in who's number one rules, right? And it is considered probably more heavily than in fight to win. Like I think they explicitly say that positioning is a higher impact factor. In this rule set, but that one judge might say, okay, well, I think that positioning is important in dominated position, but those two submissions were still attempts were still more important or were deeper than the position control was worth, right? So it's very up to the judges, even though
sport to decide. Again, I watch jiu-jitsu every single week. I watch a shitload of jiu-jitsu, and I watch everything. Like, even if we don't cover stuff on the show, I will still try and watch, from the smaller promotions, from the ones that are streaming on YouTube or Facebook. If you have a promotion, stream your matches, because I'll probably, watch through them. Yeah. But we're also watching all of the big stuff from every big organization. I think I have a really good understanding of each rule set and what they favor and how to win in those rule sets, because I spent years watching every single match from all of them. This was a very good win for Oliver Taza. I'm kind of curious to see who he faces next. I don't know who you would give him next, and that's sort of, he's a guy that's in that kind of middling ground for rankings wise, where it's like, well, he needs someone ranked, but he needs someone in his weight class, but I want to see him sort of stylistically tested with someone who's going to have really heavy pressure on control, but is also going to have a little bit of the submission offense. And the only guys I can think of right now are guys that are in the 185, 205, that are just going to be a little bit bigger than Taza.
Yeah.
So, again, good match. Interesting win for Taza. If you're kind of curious about how the dynamics of the rule set works,
this is a very good
match to watch. This is a pretty clear victory for Taza under this rule set.
But could also be a clear victory for Tama under a different rule set.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yes, so a good match to study if you're interested in for how these are scored, because very clear for Taza here.
Yeah.
Just to reiterate what I just said for no reason. Undercard matches, we had Andrew Tackett versus Sean Yadamarco. Young Tackett looked good. Dude, positionally controlled the entire match. Looked good. Keep looking for Tackett. Purple belt right now, but fighting black belts and everyone else.
His older brother was a brown belt, also fighting, the best in the world. So
for a while. So
So we'll see.
Still super hot on Tackett. I don't know who you'd give him after this match. But
it's tough because he was against another purple belt that is an accomplished purple belt, but it's not we're watching Andrew Tackett dominate in a match against someone that he is time and skill wise on par with. It'd be interesting to see what happens if he tries to break into,
and he has before, and that's sort of why Andrew Tackett is a super difficult athlete to match up for people, because we've seen him have success against good guys, and we've seen him kind of have some problems for he's getting bigger, he's getting older, and we're seeing his technical skill set grow. This was sort of a really good showcase match for him, because very good positional control throughout the entire match, and just was unable to finish. So, exciting.
Yeah, it was good.
We also had Cole Dabate versus Ned Johnson. Cole gets it done, very impressively with an ankle lock. Really kind of interesting setup here on the ankle lock. Just kind of doesn't goon it, but definitely grabs the ankle lock, turns down, and just decides he's gonna win it.
And after this match, I think he's very young still.
Blue belt still. So again, we don't typically cover.
But I think
he's
15. Or something, but he's an AOJ prodigy type guy.
He's an AOJ blue belt, where it's we're kind of in quotes. They're like, you're 15, blue belt, quotes there. Very impressive.
So
win for him.
He'll be interesting to watch in the future, both of them.
So moving on to so that's all I got for who's number one.
Yep,
great event. Watch the whole thing. Very
incredible
good card. Cons, the pacing is still a problem for who's number one. It still takes forever. To get through the card and the matches. We had 6 or 7 fights? I think 7 fights.
Yeah.
Started at 8:15, I think, or 9:15. Ended at 11:30, almost 11:15.
I can't watch them live. I just don't even try anymore.
It's really long between the matches. I would love for this to be a 2-hour event. Nice and tight. It would be great to watch. We could have it.
Delay between the matches. I don't understand
why.
There's
a lot of delay, and there's a lot of promos, and there's a lot of commercials, and there's a lot of I watched the same commercial.
It feels like the
8
commercials
or 12 times, because it was an 8-second commercial. It was a meditation commercial, and it was 8 seconds long.
It always feels like the commercials that are just being played it's not like they're slotted commercials. It feels like the commercials are being played because they just need something on the screen while there's this downtime in between matches. And I don't understand what causes that.
They have a agreement. I don't know. It could be a back end thing where they have an agreement for they got to play it this many times, but it fucks with the flow of the show
very much,
really bad, and it makes it really hard to watch live.
I end up not watching any of them live.
I would absolutely love to have folks over, watch this at the gym, do whatever.
Be cool.
But pacing right now makes that not I would not invite people over for this, because it is a 3-4 hour event for 5 matches.
I'm either going, if I'm watching this live, I'm either going to be so hammered by the second match that I'm not paying attention, or I'm going to be asleep. Because I can't deal with 20 minutes in between every match live, so I just watch them the next day.
It's long, so that's what.
It'd be great if they could deal with that, because I would absolutely watch them live.
Yeah, this is one of the
with people would be awesome.
An outstanding card, and it was great. I just want to see it, I want to see it tightened up,
yeah.
so that like the Fight to Win has a great pacing for it.
Yeah, they do.
And I want to see that because I would sit down and watch this with a group because they have outstanding style.
The matches are always good. And the rule set's good
Ben, go lay down. Go lay down. The dog is just decided to come and say hello. Thank you, buddy. All right, so let's move on to a recap of Fight to Win 168, headlined by Natalia DeJesus versus Kendall Riesing. She gets that done via choke, and that was fight of the night for the black belts.
Yeah, it was a pretty good fight. In the middle, there was some really nice back and forth spider guard play where I think DeJesus started in spider guard and then swept Kendall, and then Kendall swept DeJesus, and then DeJesus swept Kendall, and it was really interesting spider guard play from both of them. I thought that was a highlight of the match. And then
DeJesus got a clock choke.
Well, DeJesus ends up getting in this clock choke and is going around in the clock choke, and then Kendall rolls out of it a little bit, and it is very, to me at least, it seemed very clear that Kendall wasn't trying to roll out of bounds, but she very, very much rolled out of bounds. And there was a moment where her body was hanging off the stage, being held up by DeJesus's grip on the cross choke.
Yeah.
And she was like she was being hung off the edge of the stage, and you could see her face just like kind of turning as she's hanging off the edge of the stage with this grip around her neck. And then they reset it, right? Which, who knows what happens there? It's tough. You have to reset it. They let it go as long as they possibly could. It was just an unfortunate circumstance. I don't think anyone was, no one was really at fault on this one.
No, it's a Fight to Win reset where it's like they let stuff go off the stage, and it's it annoys me, but also I really do appreciate it because I don't like that bullshit. Like, oh, you're 15 feet from the edge of the mat, we're gonna restart you. It's like, okay. Yeah. You don't have a stage, especially with the style of matches and how Fight to Win pushes action. You don't have a stage big enough to like allow guys to play the boundaries like that, so you let it go. And like and fighters know that, the edge of the mat's not really going to get me out of it. It's elevated, we're going to restart, but I'm not going to be, I can't really, they can't game it as much, and so I appreciate
that.
But again, it makes for weird restarts sometimes like this, where it's like, the restart was a little, a restart with a sub, and that's always a little contentious, especially when
I think that they gave Kendall more than she had.
Oh, yeah.
At the edge of the mat.
Yes.
And DeJesus was still able to finish. So this is another one of those times where it was awkward. It was not the best case scenario. But I think the way that the match ended was what should have happened based on where things were. Like, it seemed like
what Kendall was defending off the mat was she was going to escape in that position had there been 15 extra feet of mat space.
I think they gave her a little bit of extra chance to escape based on where she was when they reset, and
the reset,
was still able to finish.
Definitely her chest was further down on the reset, and the hand positioning was lower. Like there was DeJesus had to make some much larger adjustments here for the final reset to finish. To kind of move to the bow and arrow here. It was good. Again, I go back. It was a good match, though. Yeah, I go back and forth on my kind of thought of restarts like this, and for this one, I went like, this is like
it felt right. The whole thing felt on pace. It's unfortunate that it happened this way because these are always unfortunate, but it felt honest.
But I do like that they don't let us bullshit the edge of the mat.
Yeah,
and that's one thing I do. Like I got a lot of people fault them for it. It keeps stuff honest, where it's like it's not going to get you out.
Yeah.
So I do like that.
Yeah,
so
me too.
Good match, definitely, fight of the night, deservedly so, great back and forth, and then a really interesting. Go watch the clock choke setup here for the finish.
Yeah, it's good.
Because the transition from the clock choke to the bow and arrow was super neat. Very, very interesting. It's in the gi. We don't get a chance to cover as much gi recently because there's been a lot of no-gi stuff happening. So very, very interesting transition. Next, we have Luis Montero defeating Veda Toscano via Nebar. That was submission of the night for the black belts.
It was a hell of a submission, too.
Dude, Luis Montero, again, I love Luis Montero's game.
It was awesome.
Like the step over that Luisa does, and like there's a whole little series here that she does, and then you see some great footwork in and out from Toscano's guard.
Yep.
Where she steps over, and then you see Luisa as she's going for the far side, the really big, like 270-degree step over. She steps her leg from inside and then steps it all the way through, lifts her knee up really high, and then replaces her knee to get the control she needs on that like fall outside knee bar.
Yep.
Which is that really classic. It's like a perfect camera knee bar because you can see the leg fully extended. You're rolled up. I think Dean Lister has a couple of knee bars like this where it's like the sambo. You're splayed out knee bar.
Yep.
Really, really great finish.
Very tight, nice finish.
Yeah, and again, I love watching Montero just aggressively push it in the gi. I think she's one of the more aggressive gi fighters. That's one,
especially in the women's divisions. She's very aggressive, and it's awesome.
She's also submission hunt. She will actively hunt the submission. That's one thing I really do appreciate about her game. And then to be able to do on the top level, on the control aspects, and then also go down willing to engage in the leg locks. And actually, I think this is the second footlock we've seen her finish in a row. I think she finished Flowers by a toe hold. A couple at the last female fight to win.
I don't remember, but
it was I think it was Flowers. I think it's who she fought, and then she kind of locks up the hold and then bangs it through. And again, Montero's leg lock game is nothing to sneeze at. She's
not at all.
Has definitely a diversity of leg locks, and I think that's something that in the gi I really like seeing.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's great.
Next match we had Marilyn Lasik versus Hennett Stack. This was the decision. A lot of Lasik from the guard here, and a lot of Hennett really looking to pass and put pressure. I really think that Maria gets this because she's going for like cross chokes. She
tries a cross choke here and there. There's a lot. She's attempting some sweeps and lapel game stuff. I think she definitely wins the match, but it wasn't the most exciting match of the night.
There was definitely minutes of the match that were closed guard.
But I think it's a fair win for.
Yeah, definitely a fair win. It was just definitely on the slower side. Yeah. A much more heavy closed guard match.
Yep.
For a decision.
Yeah, some interesting fine technical things going on. I think Maliesik's grip work was particularly interesting. If that's something that you are interested in seeing, it was a really interesting grip work with the way that she was moving lapels around, but nothing was effective.
Hennett did a really good job of keeping her head low and preventing the lapel from really ever getting underneath her neck or letting actually Maria ever get the forearm inside of the collar to go across the front of the neck, which is at some point she was looking for a modified arm in. It's almost like a rubber guard choke, kind of.
Sure.
And but Hennett Stack did a really good job of preventing the forearm from ever coming in to act as a choking lever.
Yep.
Really good job. And Hennett from that really heavy pressure passing style that she uses, but just not able to get through Maria's guard there. Next match, we have Liz Mitrovic defeating Silva Arujo via decision. We have Tracy Goodell defeating Tessa Simpson via Triangle Americana. In the brown belts, we have Amike Demigago defeating Angie Vasquez via split decision. That was Friday night for the brown belts. We have Priscilla Eckhart defeating Jennifer Riviera. We have Alex Yanes defeating Ashley Black via toe hold. That was submission of the night for the brown belts. We have Jackie Tay defeating Danielle Walters via armbar, and we have Brittany Big Bird Elkin defeating Tara Lewis via decision. On to the purple belts, we have Abby Tetterlin defeating Tiffany Butler to become the 125-pound purple belt champ. We have Giovanni Amarella defeating Livia Gartella via guillotine. That's submission of the night for the purple belts. We have Lauren Wolf defeating Rhodes Faraday via decision. We have Bailey Luttrell defeating Marie Galvano via decision. We have Bree Roberts defeating Stephanie Taylor via armbar. That was fight of the night for the purple belts. We have Monica Salazar defeating Lorraine Bali via Riddick choke. Tina Jackson defeating Mercedes Williams via leg lock. We have Jasmine Espinoza defeating Stephanie Madden via decision. We have Lynn Chatra defeating Sarah Lee via decision. We have Simon Madas defeating Jennifer Grindwall via decision. Danielle Walker defeating Christina Mata via armbar. On the blue belts, we have Malika Castillo defeating Andrea Forneo via triangle. We have Crystal Robinson defeating Janice Russell via heel hook. That was submission tonight for the blue belts. Blue belt heel hooks. I love to see it. Ebony Ivory defeating Arande Guerrera via ankle lock. Michelle Schwarm defeating Heather Wager via decision. That was Friday night for the blue belts. On the kids and teens, we have Alapona Nuka defeating Kaylee Machado via guillotine, submission of the night for the kids and teens. Brianna Orange defeating Isabel Reyes via split decision, fight of the night for the kids and teens. Submission of the night, then fight of the night. Jaden Renner defeating Cameron Tucker via armbar. Mackenzie Bias defeating Callie Fultz via decision. Lucy Rose defeating Kate Esmeralda via the split decision. And Hannah Watkins defeating Lily Rain via decision. That does it for our recap of Fight to Win 168. Moving on to a recap of Submission Underground 21. Mason Fowler defeated Richie Boogie Martinez via armbar during regulation. Again, Mason passed. He got to the Kimora, he sat over the top. He then was running out of time. He stepped through. He pushed the arms away and finished the armbar. Boogie's not a guy you want to get to regulation. This is the fastest we've seen Mason work in a very long time. Yeah. Again, Boogie's a guy that
he excels in those overtimes, and it was smart for Mason to not let it
Yeah. Mason has very good guard passing. Boogie tends to play a really long guard, and Mason, I think, knew that coming in. Did a really good job of controlling the ankles, getting around, and Boogie's a guy that will tend to weight you in half guard and in side control. And I think Mason knew that and immediately got to the offense there because he knows Boogie will like kind of sit and wait, especially with overtime there. He has really no incentive to to actively start to move. And so Mason immediately started going Kimora, is able to get it. We now are going to have, I'm going to blank on the name here. The guy who fought Satoshi Ishii. I'm moving through results here and I'm missing who fought Satoshi Ishii. I just had his name in my head and now I'm completely blanking on it because they're not listed in the results here. And that's, Andy Valera. God, I was looking at his face and I couldn't get his name. Defeated Satoshi Ishii via fast escape in overtime. He is now going to fight Mason Fowler for the heavyweight title. Again, good if you beat Satoshi Ishii, which is the last guy to fight for that title. You get Fowler. Leah McFarland defeated Jessica Ai via armbar, and Amanda Lowen defeated Roxanne Manafari to retain the women's heavyweight title. And that was in overtime. A lot of overtime finishes here. That's it. So moving on to our preview of Third Coast Grappling, the heavyweight GP. Super excited for this one. This is the first one on Fight TV. Third Coast Grappling has been talking about new rules. They've been talking about new production values. It's a pay-per-view. It's definitely worth the money. Super excited for it.
Yeah, this is a good one. This is our first pay-per-view off of? Yeah.
First pay-per-view off Flow.
They put together a card that makes you want to pay for it.
Yeah, $15.
Yeah.
It's like $15 to like, so here are the names in the GP, and then we'll talk about all the names. We got Victor Hugo, we got William Tackett, we got Pedro Mourinho, we got Nikki Rodriguez, we got Kainan Duarte, we got Tex Johnson, we got Manuel Hibmar, and Mason Fowler. That is a hell of a heavyweight GP.
Yep.
I'll pay $15 for it.
Yeah. I'll buy that.
First round matchup, we have Victor Hugo versus newly promoted black belt William Tackett. These guys have fought each other before.
Newly promoted black belt is
in quotes there, but I gotta say it because it's this week. Like he was a brown belt when he got announced. He was a brown belt. Now he's a black belt fighting Victor Hugo again. Hugo has a win over Tackett before.
Yes.
Tackett is definitely the smaller guy here. He's a guy that bounces between 75 and 85 for the weight class. Hugo is 235 at least. Much bigger here. Both leg lockers. Against a no-gi match, we just saw Hugo take on Tim Spriggs, get that via outside heel hook from like a belly down 50-50 position. Tackett is a guy that is known to also hunt the legs on bigger guys. He has 2 wins by footlock over Felipe Andrew, 1 toe hold, 1 heel hook.
Yeah, and these always make for interesting matchups where, I think you have 2 guys that excel in the same thing, but there's this big size difference, right? So typically when you have Tackett against a bigger guy, you can say, well, he's always got leg locks because the leg locks for Tackett are a thing that you can pull off. But I mean, we've seen this
Tackett
before.
Versus bigger guys. We saw him twice versus Tex Johnson.
Yeah.
His passing is, was crazy. And that was a year ago.
Yep.
Was the first match, and then a little less than a year ago was the rematch that he was able to beat Tex Johnson there. On the other side of the bracket is Tex Johnson, so there's actually potential for a rematch again. I do want to favor Hugo here just on size alone.
Yeah, I think Hugo's good. I mean, I think Hugo's also an exceptionally skilled, and Tackett has been very good lately, but so has Hugo, and Hugo's had some really good matchups recently. This is in the gi?
No, it's no gi.
Oh, this is no gi. Okay.
Nicky Rod's in it.
Right, duh. I'm sorry, the picture of Tackett up there is in a gi, and I just blank.
I also had like the literally smallest graphic possible.
Right.
And we're both staring at the screen in front. I was like, who's okay?
Yeah.
I'm doing play though. I'm doing it by face, not by words, because it's too small to read the words.
Right. So yeah, okay. So Nogi makes a bit of a difference, but I think Hugo's still been looking really good, and I'm excited to see the match. But I think I have to take it. I think I have to give it to Hugo even without the size.
I'm going to give it to Hugo on experience and size, and just like he is more experienced versus high level leg lockers in no-gi.
Yeah, this is a bracket though where I won't be surprised if I'm wrong.
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna pick some wrong shit here.
Yeah,
for sure. Which is again why I kind of like previewing these brackets, because it's always like
don't take my bet.
Because I go in to watch the matches with like I picked that, and then you get wrong. You're like, that's like me picking like and versus BJ Stars with Gutenberg Pedetta. We didn't pick him to win, like to go into the finals for that.
Yeah,
got it all wrong. It was super exciting because I didn't plan for any of this, and I got to watch it with new fresh eyes because it kind of exceeded my expectations. So It's always fun. Do you think that Hugo takes this one?
I do.
Again, super exciting rematch. Watch the first match. It's very good. I think also on Third Coast Grappling.
I think so.
Slightly different rules than last time, but still very, very similar. Next match, we have Pedro Mourinho taking on Nikki Rodriguez. Pedro,
interesting matchup.
Black belt as well.
Yep. This is an interesting matchup, especially after seeing Nicky Rod this weekend. Mm-hmm. Right? I think prior to this match this weekend, I would have said, okay, well, Nicky Rod's going to try to force a lot of takedowns. Mourinho's guillotines are top of the top.
Yeah.
And there's a chance here that Mourinho just plays the guillotine game, accepts guard here and there, is able to stand up out of guard whenever he feels like it, and then just plays that game, right? That's how I would have seen the match going, is a lot of like takedowns, guillotine attempts. Mourinho not really giving a shit that he ends up on his back if he's attempting a guillotine, because he's going to be able to get out and up. Mm-hmm. After this weekend,
I'm very curious because I think Mourinho's a guy. Mourinho's a guy that, again, I love his guillotine game and I love his leg locks. He is a guy that tends to get a little tired later in the matches.
Yeah.
Rodriguez is not a guy to get tired. Like, he's a guy that will win matches via a fireman's carry at the last 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, Nick Rodriguez's strategy is to, like, at any point in time, I can hit you with something you can't stop.
Yeah.
And he has that explosiveness throughout the entirety of the match. Pedro is a guy that will hit you extremely hard at the beginning of the match and then tends to fade a little bit. And we saw that most recently. I forget what match we saw that in, but like Pedro looked very, very good, but definitely faded towards the end of the match. Mm-hmm. So that dynamic's interesting. Again, Pedro's guillotines and his wrestling. Pedro's a pretty decent wrestler as well. And I don't think he is a guy that will necessarily be put off by Nick Rodriguez's wrestling. Like,
I don't think so either.
I think that Nick Rodriguez can probably get him down.
But also historically, when we see people that, I don't think Pedro's going to change his game plan from stand and work guillotines from standing, because that's his game plan. That's what he does. And I don't think he's going to change that game plan. And I don't think that he should, but also historically, when we see people that play us, I'm going to stand up and try to do anything game plan against Nikki Rodriguez, it doesn't go very well for them.
That is what Nick Rodriguez, that's what brought him to the dance, was like, cool, you're going to try to do this with me, and I'm going to snap you, and I'm going to make you not want to do that and take the initiative. That's, again, what we talked about versus Nicky Rod versus Orlando Sanchez at ADCC, was like, Orlando Sanchez was like, I'm not scared of you at all. I'm a former champion. Like, I don't care. And then Nicky Rod kind of catches him off guard, snaps him down. He's like, you took the momentum of the match, and I could never get it back. We could see that dynamic here as well.
Yeah, we could.
But coupled with Nicky Rod's passing all of a sudden,
this new passing game, I think he's got it.
I think he can get Pedro down.
Yeah.
Again,
and I think I think he can keep him down as well, which is the thing that he was missing before. Yes. I might have given this to Pedro last week. But after seeing Nicky Rod this week, I don't think that I can do that. I think I give it to Nicky Rod.
Again, the guillotine is always a factor, though. Pedro Mourinho has a dumb good guillotine.
But also, I think that
really good.
That given Nicky Rod's style, we haven't seen him hit with guillotines in the past. Right?
No.
Not that I can think of, right?
But Pedro is a guy that will also follow you in a guillotine. Like, very few guys follow Pedro does at the side. Because the way that Pedro follows, he follows like a 55er.
Yeah.
He can track your shoulders in the guillotine like very few guys at the heavier weight classes tend to do. That is why I really think the guillotine could be a factor here with Nick Rodriguez, that tends to lead very hard, very heavy pressure forward. I don't know how big the mat is either. Sure. That could be a factor. If there's
Which
a lot
it has been in the past with Third Coast. The mat's been kind of small. And
I think it's a big mat
because
I think it's the new stage at White Oak. But it could be a factor. Like, Pedro tends to play the edge very, very well.
Yeah.
Versus Rodriguez is a guy that tends to
launch
push
people off the edge,
push you into the edge, and have to reset. So. I think this is actually a little closer. Again, I'm going to favor Nicky Rod here. But I think this actually is a very, very close first-round matchup, and I could see it going either way.
Yeah, I still wouldn't be surprised if it goes either way, but I have to favor Nicky Rod after seeing him this week. He looked great.
Just versus Yuri, just looked fantastic. Other side of the bracket, unless you got anything else on this side. We got Kaynan Duarte versus Tex Johnson. Going to give it to Kaynan. Now, again, never sleep on the leg lock ability of Tex Johnson.
Tex Johnson's incredible. And
he caught Felipe Pena. He can catch anyone in the world and break baseball bats. Dude has a crazy good leg lock game and a crazy scary leg lock game. We've seen him passed. We've seen him beaten in other ways. Tex Johnson is a very...
He also, not that I think that he's expanding his game at this point, but we've also recently seen him win not with leg locks, right?
Oh, yeah.
It was Like 2 or 3 matches, two out of the 3 of his last matches were not leg lock submission finishes. So,
he has a dynamism to his game, and he's a really good guard player.
And I think that might be what ends up making this an interesting match this time, right?
A lot of times Johnson is very hot and cold with his matches, and so it's when you have Tex Johnson like show up and perform, he's world class, ADCC level, like he can sub anyone in the world because he is so strong and his technique is so like aggressive with how he finishes. He can catch anyone. But he either has matches where he's like just doesn't hit the gas right, or gets taken out of his game, or taken out of his element, or he gets frustrated and gets like DQ'd or something. Then so there's a lot of that in a Tex Johnson match when it depends on what Tex shows up here. It could be a very, very hard match for Duarte, and Duarte historically has had some issues with like really adept leg lockers.
That's
Cyborg
true.
heel hooked him at BJJ Bat. Lachlan Giles heel hooked him kind of famously. He has another heel hook loss via someone else, but. It's very possible.
It's also just hard to bet against Kynan.
Also, kind of Duarte. Like the rule on the show is don't bet against Gordon, don't bet against Kynan, don't bet against Cyborg. Yeah. Those are the rules, and then don't bet against Margali. Those are the rules.
I'm not breaking those rules. So I'm gonna go with Kynan.
I'm gonna pick Kynan here because it's the show rule right now.
But wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be mind blown if Tex pulls it off with a sub at any point throughout the match, but I do have to give it to Kynan just in general. Yeah.
Next match we have Manuel Hibamar versus Mason Fowler. This is the one that I read this week.
This one's hard.
I don't have a fucking clue how this is going to go.
Mason Fowler has been very active in SUG. Which has their EBI rules in SUG, which is weird.
It's also 5 minutes.
Short time minute.
And also Fowler will play a very like outfighter defensive, like take it to overtime game. Because in the SUG rule set, there's no penalty for doing that. And Fowler's like, I'm stronger and better on the back. This 5 minute bullshit, like whatever. Again, we saw it this week.
He plays the rules really well in SUG, but that also makes it very difficult to figure out how he's going to do in this rule set where it's just very different than SUG and likely will impact how he has to strategize for this game. And I don't know what strategy does he come in with this against.
This is going to come down to a takedown in overtime. Is what I think. I think Hibamar's a guy that's happy to wrestle with you, very hard to pass. I think Fowler is a guy that's happy to wrestle with you, very hard to pass. I think this is a takedown in overtime. I think this is a very pushy match, back and forth. Gets a little chippy here and there. Both guys are willing to play the longer, slower game, and like are willing to willing to get the penalties and take it and wait and play it to overtime.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the way things go.
Yeah.
I think I edged this one to Hibamar just because he's been competing in some more similar rule sets recently, but that's not a really good reason to pick Hibamar.
I was kind of picking Fowler because I think Fowler is he's going to be more comfortable like slowing the pace down and at the last when he needs to make that little moment get it done.
Maybe.
Although that's how I think Fowler plays this. I also think that Hibamar can do the same thing, and Hibamar's with the rule set thing. So it's like this is so close.
It's a tough one to pick. It's a tough one to pick.
I'm going to go with Hibamar here, just because we've seen him in more similar rule sets. Again, victory from Fowler here in that same way doesn't surprise me at all. So let's talk about the next round then.
Yeah. I don't. Next round's tough. Who do we think goes to the finals?
So I think that we get Nick Rodriguez. I think Nick Rodriguez beats Victor Hugo.
I think I'm going to go the other way.
You think guard work?
I think that so it depends on what happens, right? If Nicky Rod can pull off the style of passing that he was doing here, I think he might be able to do it.
I think Hugo has he's a bigger guy than Yuri. Not by a lot.
Yep.
But he has size parity complete. They're both 235.
Size parity's a big one.
No, sorry. Hugo's 265.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
Yeah, I said in the show I've been saying he's 235. He's 265.
I thought he was 255. But whatever. He's a big boy.
He's 265. Yuri was 220.
Yep.
Nick Rodriguez is 235.
But it's also the length here that I think, like, Victor Hugo is much taller than Yuri is, and that body lock passing game works better the bigger the height difference.
See, again, I'm shitty at the body lock passing, so I don't understand that.
In my experience, because if I can get my hips further away from where your feet can grab, and control, it's easier. And not to say that it's ineffective against guys the same height as you, but it gets easier as your opponent gets shorter. Victor Hugo's a lanky guy that likes to use his legs wide out.
And likes to use the close guard.
And likes to play close guard. And I think that he's going to be able to... And so we saw Yuri do this a little bit, and it started to shut down Nicky Rod's passing a little bit, or at least delay it enough.
Delay it, yeah.
Where he was using... basically just being a dick, which is what you need to do in this situation, and pushing the face away, right? And I think Victor Hugo is going to be able to do those types of things and still be able to use his legs to regain guard and regain some position. And I think that if he's able to get back into guard, then we can start seeing some of his leg lock progression. Nicky's going to stand up if he loses the body lock and go back to the passing style that he used to play. That's when I think Hugo might be able to sneak in and get underneath him.
What I think this is a slow match. It's frustrating in the guard, in the close guard with Nicky with the body lock pass for a good portion of it.
Probably.
I think at the end of the match, I think Rodriguez goes, I'm going to blast and do what I used to do, and gets around, gets an ad, gets the first score.
Sure.
Again, we've seen Rodriguez tripped up by guys like Roberto Jimenez before in the closed guard.
Yeah.
Where it was a very, very close match that Roberto Jimenez was able to edge on points. I think Rodriguez and his team will have learned from that. I think Hugo is a better closed guard player than Jimenez, but a very similar styled close guard player, and he's a bigger guy.
Yeah.
But I think Rodriguez will have taken that loss and learned significantly from it, the loss to Jimenez, with that very similar guard game.
Fair.
And he'll make the adjustment. Again, this is 2 weeks ago or a month ago, or like what we've seen from Rodriguez now. I think I'd give the edge to Hugo. I think Rodriguez will have made the changes. So I'm betting on like an X factor here. And Rodriguez is almost the only guy I will ever bet on, like, I think he's going to get better and know how to do this now.
Yeah.
So
I think I still go with Hugo here.
Yeah, no, I think that's a safe bet, definitely.
This is such a good bracket. This is such a good lineup. It's hard to...
I'm betting on an X factor of like, I think Nicky Rod has something we haven't seen yet, or implements the way you haven't seen it. Of course,
this is all assuming that it's a Nicky Rod Hugo matchup.
Oh yeah, no, which is completely wrong because the first round is still
all irrelevant. But I really want to see this match now that we've analyzed what the fuck we think is going to happen.
Next, so we got Duarte versus
one of them.
One of them. I think Duarte will. I would favor Duarte over Hibamar or versus.
Yeah, I think I favor Duarte either way.
He just has a style, I think, that matches up really well with both those guys, and just like I think his passing.
Kinan's just really good.
Yeah, don't bet against Kynan Duarte. So I think we got Hugo versus Kynan Duarte or Rodriguez versus Kynan Duarte.
Yeah, I think it's a Hugo Duarte finals and Kynan takes it.
I would agree with that. I think we could see the rematch versus Nicky versus Kynan again.
Yeah,
would be not the rubber match because Kynan has 2 on him, but potentially we could see that
third match.
Yeah. I'm honestly not against seeing that match. I would like to put about 6 more months.
Sort of like what we were talking about before. Nicky Rod is getting better so fast that I think it might actually be an appropriate time, right? Like this progression that he made is.
I want to see Nick in
right. That's all assuming that this weekend wasn't some like weird fluke, which I highly doubt it is. But like if we see this version of passing from Nicky again, things get more interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that specifically the Kynan matchup gets more interesting, although I think that still right now Kynan wins.
I don't know.
Have we seen Hugo Kynan?
Yeah, definitely. Based on something I just made up in my head. We've definitely seen it before.
I feel like we have, but I can't remember the match well enough to...
I think we have. Give me 1 second. Let me take a look at that. Let me
find Victor Hugo.
No, it's Victor Hugo. So Victor Hugo versus, it's going to try to load. Dude, I love that Flow now has...
they changed this. It's incredible.
They have the BJJ Heroes thing where it's like you go to somebody's profile.
Their record, and you can watch the videos.
Who they fought. Tell me if you've seen it. It's Johnson, the Cyborg matches, Oliveira, the Buchecha matches, Wodzinski, Ricardo. We're in 2019 stuff. Man, Hugo competes a ton.
A lot. I don't see it, though.
I don't see Duarte here. I know that he's various. He has a loss to Kynan Duarte at Spider BJJ.
Oh, yeah,
and he has a win over World Series of Grappling. He has a loss to him as well. Yeah, so, but those are, again, 2018.
2018, so it's been a while. And that was not the same Hugo that we're seeing now. And Hugo
has a win over Mason Fowler at the Euros.
Yeah.
I remember that. That was fun as well.
Remember that second Kynan match was actually really good.
Mm-hmm. I think they were both really good, but the second one was a standout one. So, yeah.
Okay. So it's been a while, and Hugo looks different this past year.
Mm-hmm. And Hugo also has a win over Nick Rodriguez at Fight to Win 135 that I forgot about. That was early 2020. That was like the super early 2020. I forget.
It was a pretty definitive win too.
Yeah, it was guard. It was like that was when we first picked up on that. Like, man, versus high level guys, Nick Rodriguez struggles in the guard passing, and that Hugo kind of shut him down. So that's why that matchup could be interesting, because I'm curious to see if he'll go in with something different than he did, because Hugo really like shut him down back then.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
I still think
how the guard passing progression has influenced Nicky's.
Again, don't bet against Duarte.
Yeah, don't bet against Kynan.
So
I vote Kynan to take the whole thing. I think it's going to be Hugo Kynan in the finals, but I'll be excited to see what happens.
Mm-hmm. So that does it. There's also some great other matchups on this card. We have Nick Rodriguez's brother making his debut here. We got Mona Bailey. I have more matches here that I'm trying to find. Overall, really, really fun, exciting card. Very much worth the pay-per-view buy.
I believe so as well.
Yeah, the undercard matchups are great, but the main card matchups, the bracket is...
Yeah, the tournament's nasty.
Is worth $15.
Yeah.
Like, these matches are... If you're a Jiu-Jitsu fan, it's not worth it. I can't sell it enough. It's probably
and hopefully
like
they made the change. I like some of the things that Flow Grappling's been doing lately, but it's also, it's Flow Grappling. Everyone knows what some of the issues are, and hopefully Third Coast switching to a pay-per-view makes it so that they're able to do something with their production that we want, right?
I want to see everyone get paid as much as they possibly can get paid. If Third Coast thinks that that's the right move for them, and it turns out to be, awesome. Like, if they can pay guys more money, like Seth and Brian McGuire from Third Coast kind of have posted, like, trying to pay guys, trying to like, get guys paid. And, like, if they can pay guys more money, like, that's both Seth and Ryan's kind of MO is like, look, I want to pay you guys as much money as I can. And so if it allows them to do that,
great.
Awesome. I'll watch it. What I do is I'll watch it wherever it's going to be. If they can get paid more, good for them. On to, let's see, EUG, Evolve Your Game Promotions, their first event. They have a crazy, it's 160 pound now. I thought it was 145 before. 160 pound bracket. So how this is going to work, we've been talking about it for a while, is there are 8 guys that are under 160. We don't know the bracket. They don't know the bracket. They're going to use that bingo style spinner, and they're going to pick out a name, and it's going to be their first round matchup at weigh-ins. So they don't know who they're going to fight to the day of weigh-ins. So they can fight any of the 7 other guys.
That's neat.
It might be round robin. I don't remember. It might be single elimination. It might be double elimination. I completely forgot. Regardless, it's dope. So here are the names. We have Jonathan Alves. Crazy good grappler.
Yep.
Andy Murasaki. Crazy good grappler.
Yep.
Isaac Doderlin. Johnny Tama, Kennedy Maciel, Marcio Andre, Gianni Grippo, Mateus Gabriel. Shane Jamil Taylor is out now. I think, how many guys is this?
So, this is
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so this is 8. Yeah. Johnny Tama is listed twice. I had to make sure that he wasn't, filling 2 spots. We've seen guys do that before, actually, fill 2 sides of a bracket spot.
That is bonkers, but...
That's also unfair as shit.
Yeah.
But if you're going to fight...
to win, but also...
You got to fight a guy that's not tired when you're tired. Yeah. So, who you picking? Again, we don't have any
tough.
brackets.
Without having any bracket.
I hope we see Murasaki.
What are the rules on
Kennedy.
this? What rules are they using? I'm not sure.
It's a stripped down IBJJF rule set.
Okay.
So it's like less ads. It's more like it's a simplified IBJJF rule set. Pretty much. So it's like all the points are the same.
If ads are out, that makes Jonathan Alves less of an attractive option as the person. As if it was pure IBJJF rules, I might have to go with Alves because, but if there's a de-emphasis of ads, then that changes my mind a little bit on him because he plays that game really nicely. It's hard to bet against Doderlin sometimes. He can show up anytime and just look incredible. Yeah, he also has some losses that are very fair losses that make me say which version of him is going to show up today. But when he shows up, man, he can win this.
Kind of similar to Grippo.
Like
when he shows up,
and I think Grippo just had a nice win. I feel like I just saw on his Instagram or something like that he won one of the smaller IBJJF somethings recently.
Grippo's a guy that competes all the time.
Yeah, he competes all the time.
We just saw him on Who's Number One or Fight to Win.
Yeah,
versus,
I think he had a loss actually.
Kennedy? Was it a rematch with Kennedy?
I don't remember.
Again, I'm going to pick Kennedy here. Kennedy or Mateus Gabriel?
Has been looking good. Mateus Gabriel. I think I probably have to go with Mateus Gabriel.
Yeah, his win over Kennedy, that big Pans win a couple years ago, he broke Kennedy's arm.
Yeah,
like that sticks out in my head so presciently.
He's been active lately too and been looking really good.
They've all been looking good. Like the shitty part about this is we don't have any
matchups.
Yeah,
we don't know matchups, so it's hard to tell.
Everyone in this bracket is like they've been looking pretty good.
Yeah,
and like they all have They all have wins and losses, and they all have matches.
Man, Johnny Tama just looked good this weekend.
But that's the point. They all have matches. They all have matches you can point to where it's like, look at that match. That's the guy to win it, hands down. And they all have matches where it's like, I had a tough match versus another guy in this bracket.
Yeah, well, I'm going to throw my dart at Mateus Gabriel, I think.
I've already made like 4 separate picks since we've been talking about this.
Yeah, you have.
With the ads, I'm going to go Tama. Not Tama. Jonta Alves.
Okay.
Just because he has that, like, I'm going to get 2.
Yeah, he can get 2 and then wait you out.
Yeah. And I think if they're not really going to penalize stalling.
But the reason that I thought about that is a lot of times he does that. I can get 2 and wait you out. But then if what happens often is he gets an ad or 2 after in that wait out period, and then eventually the other person's able to score 2, but he's up 4 ads or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Like that happens in a lot of his matches or he starts down
matches.
2 and then gets his 2, but then he has a ton of ads. So like, I feel like he's got a lot of close matches that are tied and he wins on ads, or he likes to play that game a little bit. And that's not to say that if he's aware of it, whatever, you know?
It's
tough to call.
All these guys, like, I'm much more familiar with Kennedy's style and Grippo's style and Thomas. Like, they're just guys we see in a larger diversity of rule sets.
Yeah.
The last time I remember really covering Alves and, like, something that wasn't on IBGGF was he did a subversive. And, like, he looked good. Like, positionally looked really good in that, but didn't put up a ton of offense, even in pans.
Yeah. He never puts up a ton of
offense. And it's like, I'm curious, if you're only fighting the other monsters of the 160-pound division.
Yeah.
You know, like,
is anyone really small in here? Mateus Gabriel's on the smaller side for 160 being the cut, isn't he?
No, he's a solid 50-er.
Yeah, 50. Okay.
Yeah, I think the biggest guy here is going to be Tama. Because he just fought Oliver Taza this week, and Taza's 85.
Yeah.
But so I think that Tama's going to have to cut to make that, because I think he was above 170. But again, we've seen Tama cut some serious weight. So Tama thinks going to be the biggest guy here, but Mateus Gabriel, Johnny Grippo, Mr. Andre is a little bigger, but still not one. He's still about 160.
They're all in the 50 to 60 range.
Yeah,
it's not.
I still think that Dodelin is probably on the Dodelin and Grippo are probably in the smaller side. The light featherweight there, like side of that bracket. I don't know if it's gi on, gi off, but again, I don't think anyone except for Tama is going to have a big size advantage here.
Yeah.
This is a hard bracket to call. I don't know who I've said. I think it's a
you've picked them all at this point, actually.
But again, I can make a good argument for all of these guys winning.
It'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting bracket to watch.
Yep. So look for that.
Neat way to make the matchups too.
Yeah,
seems very fair to me.
I do wish we could preview it though.
Yeah, it's harder to preview. More interesting that time at the time.
Because then I could pull up like, okay, this guy fought this guy. That can pull in a meal and do it by the numbers.
Yeah, or we could do what we typically do and get it wrong. Who's fought who before, and just make
commentary on like that match was actually versus a different guy at a different weight class.
I think there's no way he wins this, even though last year he lost.
He's beat him 4 times. Right? Like, dude, I love those are some of my favorite. Like Instagram messages we get from some guy. Hey, these 2 guys fought. Here's a link to the match, and they fought 4 times.
And here's the other 3.
Just so you know, I'm always like, cool. I mean, again, it is a way that we grow and I learn. Like I make less of those mistakes now, and I do honestly like genuinely appreciate when it's like, hey, Maine, you've been messing this up recently. You keep saying this guy's a world champion. He is a silver medalist.
Yeah, well, we talk about literally hundreds of fighters.
Yeah.
On a weekly basis. It's hard to remember all the matchups.
I will give us some credit here because it's the end of the show and we've earned it a little bit. If you think about how many divisions we cover, we have like
men's and women's.
6 or 8 men's divisions, 6 or 8 women's divisions. Yeah. Each one of those have, let's say, just top 10 fighters. We've got like 200 fighters that are
in the top 10 now, but honestly, the top 10 also is a rotating number. Yeah. And over the years, right, those top 10 have been 30 different people. Right. And then there's guys that are not ranked but are still very relevant, you know?
And it's like, he fought him in 2016, or so he's been off for 3 years, and he's back on, and he changed camps. And it's like, we keep an astonishing amount of stuff like together for, what are we, like 5 guys?
I don't know if I keep anything together, but
every week Maine goes, all right, this is what we're covering this week. This is what's next week. Maine, do you have an events list? No, but I'm going to work on that for surgery. So it's super fun week next week. I'm really, really excited for it.
Yeah, it'll be good.
I think we're good. Let's move into the outro section.
Sure.
What do you got going on this week?
What do I got going on this week? I had something to say for this, but now I don't remember. I'm tired.
Me too.
I got that vaccine last week, so that's pretty exciting.
That's awesome. I get mine next week. They're trying to push my surgery forward by a couple of days. And I'm like, bro, I am ready for the 14th. I am not ready for the 12th.
Yeah.
I can't do the 12th. I mean, I really can't do the 12th. If it's the 12th or nothing, like, I'll
fucking
make
hospital.
it work.
What are they doing? Like, why would they need to move your surgery
I don't
date?
know, man. I got a call and they were like, can you move it? I was like, actually, like, no. Like, I really can't move. Dude, I worked 58 and a half hours last week.
Yeah.
And, like, and try to, like, get ready for surgery and get all my ducks in a row at work before I leave.
Yeah.
I cannot. I need the extra 2 days. It was extra 16 hours to probably 25 hours.
What are we going to do for the show?
What do you mean? It's Wednesday. The surgery's Wednesday.
You're gonna do the show on Monday.
Yeah.
5 days later.
Yeah, I might be laying down. Josh really wants to have me lay down and do the show for some reason, which I think would be a bad idea and look terrible. But
maybe
who else gonna do the show? Like, I've done 179 of these shows. Actually, 183 of these shows.
Oh, a show with just me and Josh would be an absolute shit show and probably worth doing.
Maybe not. No. If I can't do the show, like, I'll still run the board if you guys come and do the show.
No, yeah, neither of us have any friggin' idea.
Yeah, no, we're 180 episodes in. Josh has never learned how to do the record. He will if I ask him to. Josh will.
Just seems like a lot.
The whole team will show up if need be, but like,
let's have the whole team on.
Let's wait post-corona first. I did before we get a bunch of dudes in a room that are maybe training, maybe not training.
Yeah.
No, the show will go on. We're fine. Like, look, I get surgery Wednesday. I should be like off painkillers by Thursday, and then it's only back surgery. They're gonna give me painkillers that I'm just not gonna take.
It's only my spine.
It's minor spine surgery. They're gonna like open. They're like, we're gonna move this muscle away. We're gonna do this.
Bro,
cut
minor and spine surgery don't go together.
It's not. I'm not super amped about it, but but we should be good. We should be good for the show Monday. So, because Zach, I've been so busy at work, this thought hasn't really crossed my mind like in a real way. It'll be like what I've done for the past couple of weeks is just done what I just did to you. Like, it'll probably be fine. Like, I have absolutely like, you can't drive for 2 weeks.
Yeah, you can't.
I don't know, like, what I will be like. I haven't looked up recovery time. I haven't looked up how I'm feeling. I'm online. People are like, yeah, I was good in like 2 weeks. I'm like, cool, you're not a medical doctor. You are some guy on a Reddit. As much as I appreciate the messages and comments, I'm going to talk to my really good medical doctor because it's my spine. So I think I'll be good Monday or Sunday to do the show.
Wait, so what you basically said was, I'm not going to listen to dude on Reddit that says you'll be fine in 2 weeks. I'm going to talk to my doctor. But also dude on Reddit said I'll be fine in 2 weeks. So I'll be fine in 4 days.
I mean,
is that the logic?
That is
just
you've
laid it out for you.
Pieced through exactly what I've just said, Zach, and be like, oh, soon I'll be good to sit for an hour and a half and maybe have to stand.
Barely good to sit for an hour and a half now,
dude. It hurts a lot to sit. It hurts a lot to stand. Like, I'm in constant pain. I am so excited for this surgery. Like, I am way more giddy for a surgery than I have any right to be. But I also haven't looked up any of like what they're actually doing. I haven't watched a video. I'm just like,
it might be better that way.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it might be.
Like, I know that they're gonna cut open my back, and there's a muscle in the way that they have to move, and I'm like, oh, that means that it is attached, and you have to unattach it from the spine bone.
Better not to think about it.
And then you got to go clippy, clippy, snippy, snippy, and then you got to like sew me back up. 4 days. We should be good for the show.
Good in 4 days. Sounds right. Yeah. Okay, great.
Maybe an announcement like the week of the show, like, hey guys, Maine is getting spine surgery, so there may be like, I'm not gonna do the show. What am I saying? Like, we've gone this many years without a show ever not happening for the week. There will always be a grappling rewind on Tuesday.
Yeah, well, we can discuss it later. Maybe we should have a contingency plan to make that happen somehow.
Reasonable. Yeah. I might send you guys home with recorders, actually, with all the audio equipment that I just got, just as an in case.
Yeah, an in case thing might be good.
In case Maine is like incapacitated for like a couple of days, so
we might be able to put together a really shitty show for you guys just to say that we did it.
It would honestly be great. Like, you guys, everyone on the show is just absolutely fantastic.
Well, I mean, video quality, but
it'd be a audio on the show. I would not trust you guys.
Yeah.
Without like me doing video.
I wouldn't trust me either.
But yeah, no, it's great. That's literally all I'm planning for, is just like working a ton to get everything squared away prior to surgery, getting like PTs ready, getting all the medical appointments done, because they want you to like document that you're like in pretty good health before they like cut you open.
Before they do spine surgery? Yeah, that makes sense.
They were like, you need to get like a doctor's note that like says like your doctor's cool with this shit. That was fun. They were like, this is the one day we have available. Can you do it? I was like, I don't have another option. Like, you've told me this is the only day before my surgery that my doctor can see me. Like, yeah, I'll make it work. So yeah, there's been a lot of like very rapid scheduling of major medical appointments.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's my week. I'm going to work probably 60 hours and then do like 4 medical appointments and then hopefully get the show together for someone to help run it a little more if I am mildly incapacitated in 2 weeks.
Mildly, yeah. That makes sense.
That's a November. That's an April 14th problem.
Yeah, it's later Maine's problem.
That's future Maine problems. So, Zach, I got nothing else. You got anything else?
No, that's it.
All right. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, with my co-host,
Zach.
And we are the Grappling Rewind. We will see you on the mats whenever that is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.